Good evening and welcome to the May edition of the Boys of Summer podcast on fantasy baseball. We got four nerds with us. We got Justin, Eric, and Crimmy, and myself all joining us today. Crimmy and Justin are mainly going to be along for the ride. Crimmy can go fuck himself now if he wants to, but
Go fuck
Justin's
yourself.
going to chime in from here and there. And Eric and I are going to run the show. Eric, what's going on in your life, man? Anything you need to report?
Oh no, man, I'm just ready for summer. We're down to what? I don't know when you get out, but I'm down to like 6 school days left, so I'm
Oh
hyped. I'm ready.
man,
I'm
I
ready to
am
just
ready
watch
to not
baseball.
work for the next 2 months while
Yeah,
I get to hear about Tyler whining about how he's got to work Saturdays and Sundays and I've got to keep the lights on and the Zoom while we're just playing golf and we're just getting our suntan on and
just
going on
chilling.
vacation. Yeah, that's
It'll
my
be
favorite
great.
summer.
Must be fucking nice.
Yeah, it sure is, pal. All right, I'm gonna start us off with a question off the top, which is which MLB storyline has been your favorite so far? We're gonna go to you first, Eric. What have you enjoyed so far about this MLB season in 2023?
The game, honestly, I mean, I'll say it. It kind of goes without being said, but the pace of playing and the new rule changes, I think, have honestly made a really big difference. I think the ratings are showing it, the stats are showing it. You're seeing, and again, this is all from the mastermind of Theo Epstein, so future commish. So I'm loving it. I think it's great, and I've never been the guy that was like, oh, 3 hour baseball games, I hate it. They need to be shorter, but I don't really see many people disagreeing that the game's in a better spot now than it was before. Not that there isn't any quirks or mishaps or anything like that, but it's been fun and it feels like the baseball community in terms of even the players just love it. How much they're just like loving the game again. So it just feels a little different this year. I don't know what it is. I've always loved baseball. We all love baseball, but it's got a little different type of magic feel to it this year compared to previous seasons.
I feel like the old heads have kind of shut the fuck up this year, and we haven't heard about all that the stuff that they like to whine and cry about, like bat flips and showboating and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Oh, definitely, 100%. And like yeah, I mean you're pointing at him right now, the Tampa Bay Rays. That's something in itself too.
Yeah, that's definitely a storyline. They are on pace to win, I think, 124 games. The record is 116, set by the Seattle Mariners, who did not win the World Series that year. So I mean, they're on pace to literally be the best team of all time. But they just lost Rasmussen, they lost Springs, and
Don't
uh,
mention it.
what's his name? Who Taj Bradley looks like shit ever since I sent him down. So I don't know what they're gonna do in the pitching staff, but they're just a team that just figures it out. So we'll kind of see how what goes on there. Justin, what do you think? What has surprised you? What have you loved most about this baseball season?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Rays standings there, 30 and 11, but their run differentials plus 119. So not only are they winning, but they're just destroying teams. Like
Mantling.
Randy Rosarena just destroying balls. But the craziest thing for me so far is the 14 and 27 White Sox with the negative
Yeah.
70 run differential. Holy shit, are they bad? God
Yeah.
damn it, are they bad? I thought they'd be at least a little bit better this year, like try to stay above 500. But God, every time something's going good, they just blow it. Like Eloy goes down or Cease stops pitching well. Giolito's starting to throw better, but now Lance
The
Lynn looks like,
podcast host that called that cease thing.
golly, they are just brutal.
And the
But
division's not good.
no, no.
It's
I
not.
mean, literally one team is above 500 in that division right now. That's how bad. And if you go back up to the AL East, every single team is above 500 in that division. So just kind of crazy.
Who pointed
And
it out the other day that it's like literally it's in order AL East to AL Central. If you
yeah,
go all
that's
the way down.
absolutely nuts. So yeah, those are kind of a couple of things that I've kept an eye on so far.
Yeah, I did not have the White Sox being worse than the Detroit Tigers on my bingo card this year on what I thought would happen. Yeah, I mean the White Sox, like I thought like they have all the pieces there. Like I remember 2 years ago when they signed all these players, all these guys to their bullpen, and you're like, oh man, they got Graveman, they got Hendricks, they got Diekman, they got Bummer, they got Kopech. Like, oh man, all these guys they're gonna be
Joe
loaded.
Kelly.
And yeah, Joe Kelly, and then like they're like you look at the rotation, like man, Cease, Giolito, Keuchel, oops, sorry, swear word. And all these guys, and they're like, man, they look solid. And then they have all these bats. It's like Andrew Vaughn, Eloy, and Robert, and Tim Anderson. You're like, this team has everything that you would want, and then for it all just to come crashing down and like for nothing to work is really surprising. I thought I thought they would regain command of the AL Central. So it's just like there's no reason looking at the pieces that they have why they wouldn't be good still. But can't explain why it is that they've been as bad as they've had. They just don't know how to win games. But that's what happens when you create a losing culture. It's not easy to overturn that. Chicago Bears. It's not going to be easy for the Bears to turn around a 3-win season and just be a playoff team again. It just doesn't happen that easy. So we'll kind of see when people are like, oh, tank and just be bad, do the Astros method of, just being bad for a few years. Yeah, it's not easy to undo losing culture. So yeah, we'll kind of see how it goes.
Ooh,
like
Oakland.
What's that?
Oakland on pace for 36 wins.
Yeah, they've been bad. Minus 149 run differential. They're not even competitive. It's been bad. And the Chicago Cubs. Fun watching the Chicago Cubs. Pitching staff has been elite. Stroman has surprised us. Steele's obviously been great. So didn't see this Justin Steele thing coming. Disappointed in Wisniewski. Was hoping for more from him. He's the guy I was most excited about, but Lionel's been decent. Excited for Mervis and Morale, Christopher Morale being here. So yes, I'm saying that correctly. So let's switch gears to fantasy.
Yeah, we only got a few trades to talk about.
Yeah, only a few. Do you just want to talk about these questions that I have in here, or you just want to jump right into the trades?
Oh, don't matter to me, dude. Go ahead.
The other questions I have is, and you can be as brief as you want, but which fantasy storyline has been your favorite, or which fantasy storyline has been your least favorite? If you want to answer one or the other, or both, or anything fantasy related that's over, you want to address right now off the top?
It's kind of going to be deja vu for me, and I feel like I mean, we've only been doing this a few years now, but I feel like I say it every year. People overreact a lot to early stuff, and I know we're 6 weeks in now, so you can start kind of painting a little bit of a picture, but baseball is all about balance and like 162 game seasons, and there's a reason these players have track records and all this type of stuff like that. So I do think you can look at some of this and really take stock into it, but man, I mean, literally 2 years in a row, Chad got off to a great start, and he talked about it, and then he was still one of the worst teams in the league as predicted. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen this year. I do like Chad's team, but it just goes to show that happens. I mean, there is still so much season left, which is why I think when we really get into me and your thoughts on it, it's going to be an interesting contrast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it could go either way. I mean, I think there's some team that we're a quarter of the way to the season. I mean, we're over. A lot of guys have like 150 at bats right now. Like that's a large enough sample size to start to figure out kind of what kind of guys are going to be. But there's some guys that are better second half players than they are first half players. And, even at this point in the year, all it takes is like a good 2-week stretch to turn a 190 batting average into a 290 batting average. I mean, I saw it last week. I finally got around to benching Lourdes Gurriel. He goes off, he has a 600 on base percentage and 4 home runs for the week. And now all of a sudden he's got 360 on base percentage. Like, oh, well, that's not the player he was for me all year, but guys can kind of flip a switch like that. It's still early in the season to be making, those overarching major, declarations on who players are. But yeah, I can kind of get what you're saying there. Justin, anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm good.
Anything on the negative side? Your least favorite storyline so far, and for our league in particular, or anything like that? Do you want to throw any spears anybody's direction now?
Not that I can quite think of on the head right now until we start breaking these teams down one by one. I do think the parity is definitely something it's not like a bad thing. I guess that kind of leads into that question, but the parity is pretty interesting so far. I will say this though, as much as the standings can flip flop a lot, when you start settling into like June or July, getting like 2 or 3 points a week sometimes is tough. I mean, we're talking like when it really starts settling in. So it's always interesting to see how much this can change, because 3 weeks ago I was number 1 for 2 weeks. You've been number 1 for a little bit. Chad's been number 1. Jay's been. I mean, it just changed. Jay was what, number 1 3 days ago, wasn't he? I mean, like, was that?
And now he's in 6th.
And again, it just shows how much it changes early, and then once you really settle into June or July, we'll see what happens. That's why I'm not overreacting to too much.
Yeah. I have two thoughts. My first thought is my favorite storyline so far has been people complaining about the number of trades that have been made in this league and being like, oh, it's really dry this year. Like nobody wants to deal. Like we've had 54 trades since the season ended, and we've had 26 trades since the draft. So this party is not dry as fuck, and I don't know why people are talking about with like people like, oh, but nobody.
Do they mean that seriously?
Like, what's that?
Do they mean that seriously? Because
I don't. Yes, there's people that have been like, oh yeah, like nobody wants to trade.
Oh, wow.
But my least favorite has been the Phil, Chad, and Jordan Love triangle on how Chad pokes the bear, and then Phil comes out swinging, and then Jordan chimes in, and then Phil tells Jordan that he's a piece of shit, and then Jordan says, "Come at me, bitch," and then we
Oh,
just
dude, it's
go back and
great.
forth.
I
And
love it.
yes, I'm over it though. Jordan's gonna finish in 13th place. Phil is going to be relevant, and like there's not really much to talk about. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to get into the trades later in the trades, but like there's not really much to talk about here. Like Jordan's going to be in 13th place this year, and then next year he's probably going to be in like 9th, and because he fucking sucks. And
Ooh, okay, bam, bam,
Bold predictions.
bam,
yeah,
bam,
I
bam.
mean, he hasn't done really much of anything to make it like there's team a lot better for next year. So I don't know, we'll see. Before we jump into any of the trades, Eric, is there any craw that you need to eat? Is there anything that you were like, man, I was a little wrong about that, or
Ooh.
maybe you want to take anything back about anything you said during our last pod that you're, maybe a little wrong about, or are you just sticking to your guns?
Ooh, honestly, I don't. I can't even remember half the shit I said on the last one. That's why I have to go back and look at the documents to like know where I put things and stuff. So
Yeah.
I really couldn't tell you, but it sounds like you have something ready to fucking put in the oven. So tell me what I'm
I
so
do.
wrong about.
Go ahead, Justin.
I think the Wahoo Maniacs were slated to be in 11th place.
They were. They were. They were.
So,
I did. To be fair, I did say I liked your offense a little bit more than I
this
said
is
on the
true.
show. I did
This
say
is
that.
true. This is true.
But yeah, no, that one was a tough one. Yeah, your team's definitely killing it so far.
So
Hey, how about, do you want to both eat some Cubs craw? How you said Tyone would be the Cubs' best pitcher, and I said that Wisniewski would be the Cubs' best pitcher.
Well, those were bold takes, right? Are we eating
Yeah,
craw and bold
those are both
takes?
takes. I think two things I want to eat a little craw on are, first off, I guess I was wrong about Krim's team. I don't know. I mean, I guess he just got the hex of me giving him the number one spot in the last pod. He has vastly underperformed. If we wanted to give
Yes. Yeah.
if we wanted to give our, what do they call them, the best of awards, I forget what the general name for those are called, but yeah, he would basically be the most disappointing team so far of teams.
Same with Peter.
superlatives is the word you're looking
Superlatives,
for.
that's the word I'm looking for.
Dude, eat a little
Tony
bit of
Reale.
penis while you're at it, Kyle. That's wild.
Of this being, we had high hopes for Crimmy's team, and
Yeah. What's going on?
There's still a chance. Just give me some time.
sometimes you just piss down your leg, I guess. You sometimes can't get it out in time. It goes running down your leg. And so I guess I got to eat a little craw on that. And I think the Zach Gallen thing, you backed me into the corner. You bullied me into my Zach Gallen. I didn't appreciate that. And he's thrown like 28 straight scoreless innings. And
Oh man, that's crazy. When you look at the game log and you just see 0 ERA, 0 ERA, 0 ERA, like in the last like 6 starts, that's just stupid.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some trades. Enough messing around. We go back all the way to March 27th. It was a Monday that day, and this trade happened at 8:18 p.m. and where Chad sent Trevor Story, Aaron Ashby, and Jared Kalenic before Jared Kalenic got hot. Well, not really. A good spring, but over to Jordan for Miles Mikolas and Corbin Carroll. Kind of an interesting trade, in my opinion, because I think Jordan, he went into this trade being like, I have to right or wrong, because he didn't understand the rules. He didn't read the Constitution. And he's like, well, I went into the trade thinking I needed to go get, Trevor Story and all the hurt guys. And so then he drafted too many players, didn't leave any roster spots for the hurt guys. So then he had to go trade. He wouldn't have drafted Corbin Carroll. He would have drafted a cheaper Trevor Story instead. So he's like, well, I guess I'm just going to go trade that now. So he flipped Carroll and Mikolas for Trevor Story and Kalenic. At the time, I wasn't really a big fan of it. I thought it was kind of okay of a move. I thought it was maybe selling it a little bit low on Corbin Carroll of what he could be. We've seen right now Corbin Carroll's been pretty good this year. But, I think Trevor Story's still going to be the best value out of this trade. And Jared Kalenic is really surprised us all. So I kind of like this trade now for Jordan. I'm going to give him a B. Chad, I'm going to give Jordan an A. I'm going to give Chad a B on this one.
I think with where teams are both headed, I think it makes perfect sense for both. I'll give both an A because I think Jordan, like you said, picks up Kalenic, who's been great this year. Chad kind of did a win now moving Carroll. And honestly, if Carroll keeps that pace, I don't have the contract in front of me here. What was he, 27 or was he in the 30s? I can't remember. But I mean, he's on pace for 100 runs, 20 home runs, and 40 steals. So I mean, if you're talking that as like a $30 player, to be a 20-40 player, 100 runs scored, I mean, that you're talking, he could be a keeper at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, 33. I mean, we're about a quarter of the way through the season. If you take those, I'll multiply them all by 4, I'd say. So yeah, I mean, it's 2040. You're right on it. So yeah, I mean, if it's a 2040 season, I think 33 is definitely in the ballpark. I mean, we've seen Cedric Mullins get kept for about that range, and Cedric Mullins didn't have the RBIs, and I think the on base percentage was about in the same ballpark, and didn't have 40 steals. I think he was 30-30 though. So I think it maybe be like a good comp for it. But
And the RBIs should go up now. He's hit more in the middle of the order, but the RBIs are kind of low right now.
yeah, maybe Cedric Mullins is just kind of the peak, the comparison for him, where it's just kind of maybe that just is what he is. But not saying he won't be a keeper, but I think we know that Trevor Story will be a keeper going into next year. I'm pretty confident who Trevor Story is, and Jared Kalenic for what's he going to be 6 next year or something like that. I think he'll be pretty solid. Aaron Ashby, is he even going to pitch this year? I don't know. He's 60-day IL. I like the talent of Aaron Ashby, but I think he's just kind of a throw in at that point. So is Mikolas, but I think it makes sense for both. Tyler Anderson, Pete Fairbanks for Clayton Kershaw. All right, I'm gonna start the rant now. There's no sense in waiting anymore. I am very, I don't know if frustrated is the right word, but I guess disappointed in how some of these trades have been handled by the teams that are giving away these assets. In my opinion, like, I just don't understand the rush of why these guys were trading these guys at the timing that they did, and what they got back for them is not anything that is like concrete and something that they can take and hold going forward and be like, at least I have this going into next year. We're going to be looking at Clayton Kershaw, Yordan Alvarez, Ozzy Albies, and Xander Bogaerts and Ronald Acuna, and the returns that those players got back, like sure, there's some promise in some of what those are, but it is baffling to me that you traded those players at the timing that you did, like in April and March and April and May, to punt your season that early and did not get anything back that is actually worth a damn. Like, why not just wait until you actually get assets that you know will be worth something, whether it's a hurt guy, whether it's an injured guy, whether it's whatever it may be, starting with Clayton Kershaw for Pete Fairbanks and Tyler Anderson. We know what Clayton Kershaw is. We know that Clayton Kershaw is going to throw 140 innings this year. It's not going to be 200, but in those 140 innings, he's going to be an elite pitcher. You got Pete Fairbanks and Tyler Anderson back for him, neither one of which are worth a damn for anything. Tyler Anderson has been dog shit this year. He has a 5.2 ERA and a 1.6 whip. And Pete Fairbanks has been hurt, but he's a Rays reliever. So yeah, sure, he looked like he was going to be the closer. And yeah, sure, he got some saves. He's gotten 3 saves so far this year. Whoop-de-doo. So like, I'm looking at this going, why trade Clayton Kershaw when you don't even get a single piece back that you know for sure you're keeping the next year? It is absolutely baffling. Here's my first of many Fs that Bryce is going to get here.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's not necessarily the league. I think a lot of it's just Bryce. I mean, we've been ripping Bryce in trades for 3 years now. I mean, there's times where he comes to the table and offers some really crazy, like, how could you even think of that stuff? And other times he accepts some pretty mind-boggling stuff. I mean, that's kind of been his MO since he's been in the league. I mean, we always give him shit for it. He hasn't quite been able to prove us wrong yet, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I just like.
I mean, it's not a good trade. I don't disagree with you. I think I would have held off the rant a little bit longer because I think there's worse ones coming.
There is, but it has to be said now because it's going to be the same thing for every single one of these.
Right. No, I mean, and like you said, it's early. I mean, was that the day after opening day? Was that
something like
before
that.
Opening day even? I mean, honestly, I mean,
March
it's
28th.
Yeah.
So it was opening day, March 31st, or
I think 30th, Thursday,
yeah.
right? So I mean, we haven't even seen a pitch yet.
And that was like before Bryce even like decided he was going to punt on the season. So maybe he was like really high on Tyler Anderson and Fairbanks and needed a closer and wants to go the closer route. And like, maybe he just wasn't high on Kershaw. I don't know. I don't know. Didn't he keep Kershaw? I think he did. So. I don't know. So like, I don't really know what the rationale was here. But I mean, hey, I guess Jay gets an A for it. Really helped Jay out. You know, maybe Jay's a little thin at closer, but Jay gets an A+, I guess, even, and Bryce gets an F. It's a total head scratcher. Can't explain it. Next we have Brandon Woodruff getting sent from Jay to the Crims crew for Nick Lodolo and Ryan Presley. Unfortunately, Brandon Woodruff suffered some injury stuff this year. Hasn't really been on the mound much. How many innings has he thrown this year? He has thrown 11 innings with 0.79 ERA and a 0.88 whip. He's been elite in those 11.1 innings. So Crimmy gave up Woodruff. Crimmy got Woodruff and he gave up Ryan Presley and Nick Lodolo. Presley's been solid this year, even though, you know, his underlying numbers are still like the velocity is still a little questionable. And he's kind of had some times where he's like, I don't know, is this the last dance for Ryan Presley? But, and then Nick Lodolo has been really shaky to
Real
say the
ass.
least. 6.2 ERA and a 1.7 whip. He has been basically unplayable. He's gotten lit up. He pitches in Cincinnati. We know the promise is there. He's on a good contract, but not the kind of return that you wanted for a healthy Brandon Woodruff at the time. So, Erica, what do you think here?
I still like this one for Krim for the most part. He had Hader at the time, was fine giving away Presley at that point. Presley was injured to start the year as well. And who knows? Like you said, a couple more bad Presley outings, and that there's some guys in that bullpen that could take that job. So I actually really still don't mind this one. I think Krim still looks good at this point. We'll kind of talk about his team in that aspect later, but I still look at this as pretty a move for Krim. He's got an ace.
Yeah, so he had an ace, and then unfortunately, you know, Brandon Woodruff went down. I thought it was, I didn't. If Lodolo was a little bit better, it would look better. But the fact that we still didn't really know what Nick Lodolo was, and it was kind of Krim did a good job of selling Lodolo at his kind of highest point. At that point, he had still like had all the promise in the world. Kind of got peak value. If you traded Lodolo now, you're not going to get nearly that kind of value for him. But you know, closers are hard to come by too. So I think it kind of goes both ways. Both teams kind of got, I think, what they wanted out of it. So I guess you kind of go bees all around, something like that.
Yeah.
All right, next we have Beantown Boys. Hey, trading away Nate Eovaldi, who has now lowered his ERA to 2.7 and has a whip of 0.99 in his last, let's see, when was the last time he gave up an earned run? 3 starts ago. So he's since thrown 25 scoreless innings in his last 3 outings. And he got back for Nate Eovaldi, Cal Quantrill and Justin Turner.
I'll say this to be fair, it'd be more interesting to see. Again, we're not looking at it 6 weeks later. Nathan Eovaldi has never been an amazing pitcher in the bigs. He never has. This is by far and away the best he's ever pitched in his life.
Never been amazing, but he's been pretty solid several times.
I guess. I didn't really hate Justin. I mean, you could tell me I would trade Eovaldi for Justin Turner straight up based on what Justin Turner's done in the past in his career with his on-base percentage hitting in the middle of that Dodgers order, and that wouldn't have been a bad trade in my eyes. I mean, it's just. Well, I mean, still, I mean, look at what he's done in it. I mean, even last, I mean, still, I mean, he's still in his career. What has Eovaldi done?
13 homers. 13 homers last year. How's the age going working for Jose?
And Eovaldi, just so you know, last year Eovaldi in 109 innings had 103 Ks with a 3.87 ERA and a 1.23 WHIP. It's not
serviceable.
That's serviceable. Justin Turner was serviceable.
No, he is not. 13.
But no, what I'm saying is we're gonna rip Bryce here, but this is again a pre-opening day trade when we're gonna look at Eovaldi's numbers now and go, wow, how could have Bryce done this? When it really
solid.
When preseason that trade doesn't look bad. I mean, again, looking at it now, yes, we can say Bryce F J A. Sure. But 6 weeks ago, that wasn't the case. I just don't think you can sit there and say that. You couldn't have sat there and said Eovaldi's going to be a top 5 pitcher at this point, dude. Come on.
I wouldn't say top 5 pitcher, obviously.
Look at his career. He's never been that great. He never has.
It's his 4th year in a row with a sub-4 ERA.
Okay. And what's at league average now?
Probably higher than 4.
All right. I mean, I'm not saying that Jay didn't win the trade. Obviously, it's not as bad as it looks. Now it is.
Yeah, I mean, Eovaldi's no ace. But
I can tell you this: he ain't gonna keep that up throughout the year. If he does, call me wrong. But Eovaldi's not gonna. He ain't gonna keep that up.
He's not gonna keep throwing 25 innings in a row without giving up a run. Yeah, no, I wouldn't put my egg in that basket. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's whatever. I mean, obviously, Bryce is going to go get his Red Sox. It's what he does. It's not going to be the last time we're talking about him getting his Red Sox. But I'm going to give him a D here. I'm going to give Jay an A- here. Actually, I'm just going to fuck it. I'm going to give Jay another A+ because I guess maybe it's going to be the turn from last year. I mean, at the time, it seemed decent. And then even now that we do have the hindsight, why not use the hindsight?
Yeah, sure.
We have the information. So, you know, looking back on it, since we had the time, yeah, I'm going to give Jay an A+ because, I mean, Eovaldi has been incredible, and he didn't have to give up hardly anything to do it. Cal Quantrill has pitched to a 3.97 ERA and a 1.34 WHIP, and 23 strikeouts in 45 innings. So that is a solid, basically 0 category contributor from
Just so you know,
California.
his 2021 season was better than any of all these seasons.
Sure. If you consider 121 strikeouts and 149 innings, better than Eovaldi, and a
I would.
1.17 WHIP isn't really doing a whole lot for you either.
Okay.
But sure, argument could be made. All right, next we have trade between Bryce and is that the one we don't need?
Yeah, that's one we don't count.
We need to ignore. Then we have Bryce making a trade with me, which is where he and maybe I'm biased here, but this is the best trade that Bryce has made so far, where he gave up Helsley, Salvador Perez, and Charlie Morton. He got back Camilo Duvall, Hunter Brown, Ezequiel Tovar, and MJ Melendez. I think 3 of those guys are going to be keepers for him next year, where he can look at Duvall and be like, this is a closer for $7 next year on the Giants. He can look at Tovar and be like, okay, well, he's the starting shortstop for the Rockies. We'll see what we have here. Hunter Brown has been really good so far, I believe, unless he's gotten lit up recently. 3.32 ERA and whip a little high, 1.308.
And now that's a little high.
39 innings. But I think let's see here. I'm not going to worry about what he's done lately. And then MJ Melendez, probably not a keeper, especially if he loses catcher eligibility. I don't know if he will. He's been okay, but I paid like $11 for him, so I wouldn't keep him for $11 or whatever he is. Gave up Ryan Helsley, who's been very not great because he just doesn't get saves. Salvador Perez has been okay, and Charlie Morton has been okay.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's a wash, but I definitely think right now probably the best value in this one's the Doval, right? I mean, he's been really good, 16 innings, 23 Ks, he's got 8 saves, seems to be, and the Giants seem to be a team that's going to be in close games. So I think the saves won't really ever disappear from Doval in that case. And Brown, in that Houston rotation could be pretty solid there. So, but you also got your guy Morton back. So it's tough. I could see where a couple of these guys turn into keepers for Bryce, and honestly, that's kind of what he's looking for right now. So it makes sense. If he could turn half of that trade into keepers, I think that's a success for him.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, this one's kind of a to be determined. I like Doval could be traded. Doval could lose the role. Closers are like that. You never know. Same thing. Tovar could be sent down. Hunter Brown could get blown up. We don't really know what he is yet, and MJ Melendez could go either way. But he hasn't played well so far. I mean, we could look at this and have no keepers, or we could look at this and be like, hey, 3 out of 4 of those, Tovar finishes the year 2020, and and Doval still has the role, and it could flip any which way. But at least he's gotten some decent assets back, guys that could actually be something in this trade, and he didn't give up any of his blue chips. This isn't one of the trades he had to give up an Albies or a Bogarts or an Acuna for, and this is I felt like one of the best returns he got back in any of the trades.
Maybe we'll see. I guess I don't know if Tovar's on pace right now for 4 steals, not 20, but and 8 home runs.
He's gotten definitely off to a slow start.
So we got to be careful what numbers we're throwing out there, because Tovar's he's been kind of shit.
Well, yeah, but it's his rookie year. He had hit some 20 stolen base seasons in the minors.
So did Wander Franco.
And he's got 14 stolen bases this year.
I know. Mr. Hater Wander Franco. See, perspective.
Yeah. All right, next we have Bryce getting involved.
Stop. You're doing it. This is crazy. Oh, I love it. I love the
Bryce trading away Zach Eflin, Jordan Montgomery, and Manuel Margot to the Crims crew for Tyler O'Neill and Evan Phillips. Where I'm looking at this going, okay. I don't know. You go ahead and take the lead on this one, Eric.
This one, I don't even know what really to say about this one. I wish I could see. I wish I could kind of see the contracts with this and that. This was during the Tyler.
I need alcohol.
Yeah, this was the weird Tyler O'Neill situation where he didn't run out of. What was it? He didn't tag up or didn't run around third fast. Yeah, he didn't run around third fast enough, and he got benched and stuff was going crazy. Now he's on the IL and he's still kind of shit like he was last year. So that really hasn't turned around too much. Phillips, on the other hand, has been really, really good for LA. He's got 7 saves. I don't mind this at all for Bryce. I don't know if Krim really saw Phillips being that closer. I know he kind of talked about it at some point that it was a possibility, but he got Margot and Eflin back. Again, Eflin's been pretty solid so far, but I would argue Phillips, you could say, is more valuable than Eflin right now, being on the Dodgers closer. He could be in line for a lot of saves, but I don't know. It's just kind of I'm kind of wondering exactly what each team was kind of really looking to get out of it in that sense. But Montgomery goes to Krim as well, who's been okay. Eflin, like I said, has been decent, but Phillips could be the shining one in that deal.
Yeah, I mean, could be, but do you think that they're gonna stick with a guy like Phillips in LA, or you think they're just gonna go trade or sign somebody next offseason? LA.
I mean, they could, but I mean, if Phillips sits, I mean, look at the ERA. He had 63 innings, dude, last year with a 1.14 ERA. That is
Yeah.
elite. That is
Yeah.
elite.
That looks.
So,
Oh,
I mean, they might like him a lot more than we do, and if he continues that throughout the year, that could be a 35 save closer.
Yeah, it looks like he's been solid for most of his career. So yeah, I mean, it could definitely be something. You know, who knows? Who's that? He's Fletcher just doing a bunch for the Diamondbacks. Yeah, I would still say that Eflin's probably the better asset. I think Eflin's probably the best future asset in this deal. And of course, Bryce was the one to give him up. So
See, again, I don't know, man. Where's Eflin been good in his career? We know what Eflin is now, right? 6, 7 years now. I mean, we know what Eflin is. If anything, I would rather take the upside on Phillips over Eflin. I mean, again, Eflin on the Rays with their controlled environment in Tropicana, their pitching coaches, maybe you can buy into that and say he's over in Tampa Bay now. I believe in that. I trust
Zach
that.
Eflin is the highest paid Ray of all time. And that says something to what they believe he was and what he will be. And I think that they saw what they wanted. They saw him as a blueprint of what they actually wanted to do. So
I could buy into that.
He's so far he's over strikeout an inning. He 2.9 ERA, 1.02 WHIP. Like, I believe that's kind of the picture that he will be going forward. I think that they just figured something out with him. That's why they gave him the contract, the uncharacteristic contract that they did. And yeah, I mean, Jordan Montgomery could be something. I don't know if he will. How's he pitching this year? I don't even know. 4 innings. Not great. Not as good as he did in the second half of last year.
Yeah.
Evan Phillips, maybe Beantown Boys can flip him at the deadline into some more assets, or Tyler O'Neill. I'm not a Tyler O'Neill fan anymore. I already have my bold take about him. Don't need to go any further on that.
All right. Well, we do have it. Our next one does not have Bryce.
Hey, how about that? Little change of pace. We can take a little break here. Seawald and Silseth for Moncada. I'm gonna give Jay an F here, and I'm gonna give Peter an A, because the only asset here is Paul Seawald.
Yeah, and he's been good. I mean, pretty good. 9 saves already. So yeah, no doubt.
Good. I don't know if Munoz is gonna get the job back.
I hope he does, but
do you have him?
No, I don't. I like Munoz a lot. I think Munoz.
He's really good. He's got like 102-mile-an-hour heat or something.
He's electric, and his slider's dirty. Yeah.
Next we have Will Myers for Quijada. I'm gonna give this a B's all around, maybe A-.
You skipped one there, bud.
Yeah, I did. Oh, I skipped one. Oh, a big one.
Tony Reale here.
Minus 2 points.
Line. Yeah, there's a there you go. Thank you.
Yep, I'm here.
All right. Let's see. Frame Bear Valdez.
We're gonna act like we don't know who that is.
Frame Bear Valdez and Will Myers for Randy Rosarena. Rosarena and Gio Urshela. I think this worked out well for both teams.
Yeah.
I think Justin's gonna get the slight edge here because Framber Valdez has pitched like an elite pitcher would. And Will Myers, it was an asset just going in Justin's direction that he used to flip here in a trade after that. Rosarena's been solid too, though. He's been,
it's essentially really a 1-for-1, yeah.
So yeah, essentially kind of like a 1-for-1 there. And I think it kind of both teams got what they were looking for. So I guess we'll go A's both ways.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, if you're looking for hitting, you're looking good with Rosarena. If you're looking for pitching, you're looking good with Valdez. I mean, the Myers and Urshela at this point with what they've produced kind of wash each other out. But no, I think it's worked out for both, no doubt. I know a lot of people were asking Tyler for some of that pitching assets he had in the beginning of the season with all those guys he had. That was what got it done, and it's nice to see when it works out for both teams, not trying to fuck each other. That's good.
Yeah, imagine that. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Justin and Tyler to try and fuck each other, but I just the sexual tension that's between those two just can be a little much sometimes.
We're not quite to the after hours section yet. Come on.
All right. So next we have Will Myers for Quijada, which, you know, on paper looks really bad when you see Quijada didn't really do a whole lot. And he's hurt now. But I will say this. Will Myers is never going to go in Justin's lineup, and Quijada was used against me the week I traded for him, and he got 2 saves that week, and Justin beat me in saves that week. So for the 1 week that Quijada was in Justin's lineup, he did end up getting 2 saves for him, I believe, and he had to give up Will fucking Myers for it. So I think it kind of worked out. I don't know if a grade is necessary here, but
No, not really. It's us. Yeah.
it is what it is. Welcome back, Bryce.
Ugh.
Bryce traded Ozzy Albies, Max Kepler for Adam Wainwright, Alex Wood, Yohan Moncada, and Vaughn Grissom. Is there a single asset going back in Bryce's direction here?
What's Vaughn Grissom's price?
He is like, it doesn't matter. He's back in the fucking minors.
No, I know, but every time he's been in the majors, he's played solidly well. It's not like it's his
Has
glove
he?
they can't stand.
Has he?
I think he's played okay. Yeah.
5 homers, 5 stolen bases.
Dude, in
40 at bats.
yeah, so that's a pace for it's a 20 home run, 80 RBI season with 20 steals. That's a 2020 season, dude.
Yeah,
Don't that. Yes, it is.
yeah, it's anybody.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Like-
I don't know how you just look at trades sometimes and you just immediately like look at the numbers that are there. That says a rookie. He's never played in the bigs before.
He can't play defense, and
Sure.
so he can't.
Sure, but
crack
that's
the
not
Atlanta
fantasy
lineup.
relevant. And
It is fantasy relevant when you can't get into the lineup because
Sure,
they can't call
agreed,
you
but
up
it's
because you're a
also the
defensive
Braves.
liability.
The
It is
Braves are
fantasy
good.
relevant.
the Braves are good. If you look at that, literally 41 games.
Orlando Arcia is not an MLB caliber player.
That
and
is-
he's their starting shortstop because he's
Agreed.
serviceable on defense.
But that is literally a quarter of a season, his first stint ever in the big leagues, and that's a 2020 season with a 350 OBP. Like I just don't know how you can say that that's not. If you're looking at what Bryce is trying to do, yes, that could be a keeper next year if he's $1. I would keep him. Yes.
And so did Frank Schwindel came up and had a good half of a season.
He was 30. Frank Schwindel was 30.
When he came up. Like this can happen when pitchers don't know how to pitch to you because they don't have the scouting report.
Difference here. Difference. Schwindel's 30. Schwindel's 30 and was placed on waivers by the A's. Vaughn Grissom is a top 15, 20 prospect in baseball. Yes, there is a difference.
Yeah. It took Jared Kalenic 4 years to figure it out.
No,
too.
it did not. It's just not true. That's just not true. He
Took
played
him
a half a
2
season. The
years.
big sucked. Played another year last year, so a year and a half.
He got 2 stints already in the bigs. He got called
Yes.
up. He got sent down. He got called
You
up.
remember
again,
Javi Baez when he got
again,
called up to
and
the
then
big
sent
leagues and
back
had a
down.
50% strikeout percentage? Do you remember that?
And how's that working out for Javi fucking Baez this year?
8 years later, after 3 All-Star games, like come
And
on,
a World
dude.
Series championship and
Yes.
an NLCS MVP.
He wasn't even the best shortstop on that World Series team.
Oh,
The other
my.
one hit his wife. Like he's not a good dude.
So
Like come on. Like
Allegedly.
anyway, Vaughn
Allegedly.
Grissom is not
Yeah,
going to
sure,
be a keeper
sure.
next year. I'm calling. Okay, bold take. Vaughn Grissom not going to be a keeper for $8 fucking when he can't even get on the field because he sucks so bad.
But
And if his bat was that good, they would find ways to get him in the lineup because they would either DH him, they would move him to second or something to find it, or move him to right fucking field if he was at least had half of a brain and could swing the actual bat. But they actually don't believe in him, or else he'd be on the actual roster,
But-
right?
And here's the thing, I'm not saying that Ozzy Albies couldn't have generated more of a return. I'm not saying that by any means, but like really that's how I'm looking at this trade right now because Moncada's trash, Wainwright's not doing Kepler's. It's basically Albus for Grissom. Albies is a C. Grissom's a cheap contract prospect. Like you see what Bryce is doing. I mean, I don't think it's. You think he would have got 3 keepers back for Ozzy Albies? I don't think so.
Yes.
I don't think so.
Three more of a better odds of being kept
Maybe.
than that.
I mean, possibly. Yeah, it's
Eric,
possible.
you,
But
you have like 5 better assets on your roster right now. You would trade for Ozzy Albies that are better than everybody else that was involved in this trade.
yeah, yeah.
It's just why I just don't understand the timing. I don't understand that why you're like, okay, if this is the trade that you make in August when you're like, I'm not getting any interest in Ozzy Albies, like I've shopped them around, like this is what I have to take, like I'm just gonna have to take a flyer on Vaughn Grissom, then okay, I get it. This is not the trade you make April 18th.
I
It just
agree.
doesn't make any sense.
I don't disagree with you. I think it's early too. I wouldn't have had fun giving up on my season that early either. But it's not me making the trade. I didn't manipulate.
Speaking of bad timing trades, let's move on to the next one.
Woo woo.
Where Jordan was like, hey, here's Jose Altuve for Jeffrey Springs, Tristan Casas, and Justin Steele. And just for shits and gigs, I'm going to throw you George Kirby and a Luis Garcia on a silver fucking platter for you.
This is looking
because I
great
wanna
for Jordan.
tickle your sphincter a little bit and give you a nice little reach around there and play you like the rusty trombone you are.
Hold on, real quick. Let me speak on this one. You see, here's the thing on this. This is why I find people criticizing trades so early in the season funny because right now Justin Steele, if we're doing the whole ×4 thing, Justin Steele's the best $1 contract in fantasy. I
Okay,
mean, if we're doing right, if he kept that pace up
sure,
for the season, right?
sure. I can't
Okay,
agree.
and he gave up three guys that he's not keeping, dude. Garcia, he wasn't keeping at that price, and oh, by the way, Tommy John, we couldn't see that happening. Granted, Kirby's not. Don't think's being kept at $25. I mean, he's a good pitcher, but I just unless he really goes out there and has an all-star season, he's not being kept at $25. I didn't do the trade for that. And he gave up Altuve, who's a C contract, who nobody was biting on very much. It didn't seem
Nobody's
like.
biting because he's still fucking hurt.
Right?
No,
Okay.
you don't trade
Listen,
him right now. You trade him in 2 months when he's healthy.
But it comes up. But he comes back in a week or two, and guess what? He got Justin Steele back, who's probably right now, arguably one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. So I mean,
Yes. So you
where's
trade Steele and Casas, or you trade Steele and Springs for Altuve straight up, or whatever it may be, and then you trade Kirby for more assets, and then you trade Luis Garcia for more assets. And like the value of this trade is just whack when it comes to what you actually got for Altuve, and the timing of it was terrible. Like
let's not pretend that Garcia didn't have a 6 ERA when he was traded to me.
Eric, would you have traded, and you're probably going to say no to this, but would you have traded Springs and Steele at the time for Kirby and Garcia without Altuve?
Springs and Steele with how they were pitching, would I have traded for Garcia?
And this was in April, so you only seen like 3 or 4 good starts from Steele.
Yeah, and I had Springs all of last year too, mind you.
So like after that goes down, you're like, okay, well, and Springs isn't an asset either. And I haven't mentioned this yet, but there's no way you can keep Springs on
I will say this, that I feel like you have to give me some credit for the price I paid for Springs, because I believe I paid 18 for him because I was a huge believer in Springs.
Sure.
And
flowers.
And I, based on what he pitched last year, his Ks per nine, everything that he was doing. So I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I don't know if I would have done that at that time, because Garcia's numbers last year, Springs did better than him,
Hey,
and
can you guys
Steele.
still hear me?
Yeah.
I just got signed out of the Zoom. I think Tyler just tried to sign in.
Oh crap. Well, I can still hear you. Are we still live?
I think so.
Tell him to sign into your profile. Give him, I don't know. Imagine paying for it and then being like, "Oh, sorry, dude, you can't attend the shows because."
Did all right, hang on. All right, go ahead. Sorry, I hope this doesn't get caught up.
But basically, if you look at Justin Steele's numbers last year and you pop them up next to Garcia's, Steele was better. Okay, and Steele's $1. Garcia's what, 20? I can't remember what his contract was. Doesn't matter. He's Tommy John anyway, right? But Steele and Garcia, okay, Kirby and Spring, and I was a big believer in Springs. So if you're telling me what I've done, Steele and Springs for Kirby and Garcia, honestly, probably not, because I would have looked at that as such a lateral move, and I had a cheaper contract than Steele. So no, I probably honestly wouldn't have done that. I think when the addition of Altuve really obviously was the difference maker in that one, and that's why it got done.
Yeah. Yeah, man, absolute no brainer for you. Yeah, I actually paid $23 for Justin Steele in a comparable league, or not Justin Steele, for Springs in another league. So,
yeah, and he was looking elite too. And I know it's such a small sample size, but man, in those only, I think he had 18 innings this year. I watched his start, or 16 innings. I watched his starts, and he was looking fucking good, dude. They pulled him out of a no hitter after 6 innings in one of his starts. I mean, he was elite. He wasn't giving up anything, but. That's only the first of the injuries.
Yeah. Yeah. Rest in peace to some of the injuries you've had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just think it was, I mean, it's in the name. I think Jordan did lincecum prematurely here. And, I don't know why he waited till now to trade, Altuve, but, that's what it was. What are you laughing at, Justin?
Fucking grim.
Oh. All right. Next we have not a Bryce trade. All right. Jordan and Tyler swinging a deal. Where Tyler got Jordan Walker and Dre Jameson and had to give up Mackenzie Gore, Ranger Suarez, and Garrett Mitchell. Poor Tyler on this one. Things were looking good for Tyler until he made this deal. Pulled the wrong strings, and he didn't get a single major league player back in this deal because Jameson was sent down in like a couple days later, and Jordan Walker was sent down a week later. I don't think we've seen the last of Jordan Walker, but Tyler's gonna have to get an F for this one because it's not looking like Jordan Walker's can be kept at 23 or whatever, and he's not contributing to what he wants to be, a contending team right now. So
and the best asset in this trade is Mackenzie Gore at $1. And I told Tyler, I know me and Tyler were talking a little bit before the season, and I was like, dude, I'd keep Gore at $1. I mean, this is a guy that, again, we could talk. He's been in the big leagues for 4 years. He has, and he's been in the big leagues for 2. But he was good last year when he started. They kind of pushed him in the bullpen last year when a lot of guys came back. He got a new fresh start in Washington. And honestly, Mackenzie Gore's been pretty solid. The whip's a little high. He's walking some guys, but 41 innings, 51 Ks, a 3.29 ERA, and he's $1. So again, that's definitely a very possible keeper there. And Jordan Walker, I don't think, and again, unless he was an all-star this year, we talked about this on the after the draft show. Unless he's an all-star, he's not being kept at $20, right? Or however, I think he was right around $20. So that's just not happening. So Tyler did this as a win this year move, and I see 2 green flags there, like you mentioned. So that ain't gonna really get it done for him.
Yep. F for Tyler. And I guess we'll have to go A for Jordan, I guess, because he sold at just the right time on both those assets. All right, next we have Dex and Jay swung a trade where Jay sent Josh Lowe, Jose Alvarado, who had just taken over the closer role, and JD Davis, and he got back Sean Manaea, Jeff McNeil, and Christian Arroyo.
Can I give my first F?
What's that?
Can I give my first F? This is an F for Jay, right?
Yeah, so Jay was the one to get rid of Lowe, Alvarado, and Davis. Yeah, and he got back basically nobody. Sean Manaea, who's in the bullpen for San Francisco. McNeil, who is not really a good roto player at all, with his 1 home run or 2 home runs, 12 RBIs, and a decent on-base percentage, and not really offering much in the speed department.
Dex got 3 starters. I mean, Alvarado, when he's not hurt, closer, he's been absolutely disgusting. I mean, the Ks per 9 are ridiculous. Lowe's been amazing, and Davis has put up really actually solid
Davis has actually been really solid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is like an easy A+F done. Dex killed it here. I mean, he did.
I didn't really. This one got lost in the mix. I didn't really think twice about this one, but yeah, this is solid.
That's why and again, I'm not saying someone Dexter. I know you'll crucify Dexter later, but these were some of the moves where I was like, Dexter's competing and he's making these moves right now. Like, dang. But
I don't know why he folded so early, given all the good quality moves he's made. But yeah, sure. Next we have Xander Bogaerts from Bryce for the colors and Jonathan India. I mean, it's okay. I mean, India for $4 or whatever, or 3, I think it's $3 A. Like, I like that contract, and India's been decent so far. I mean, he's only on pace for like
32 steals,
but only 12 home runs, so like a 10-30 season
and 120 runs, dude.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, the runs would be solid. If he scores 110 runs and 15 homers, 30 stolen bases, that's definitely solid. That's the kind of guy that I would be targeting to get rid of some of these guys like Bogaerts and like Albies, and like that's the kind of guy that you should be waiting to trade for, a guy that has established as being a major league caliber player on a bargain contract. I think, Eric, you get the offensive upgrade and what you believe is an offensive upgrade in Bogaerts versus India.
But this was ripped apart when it happened 3 weeks ago. And now all of a sudden it looks fine. That's what I'm saying. Like, we shouldn't be ripping apart trades so fast.
Sure, we should.
And that's what No, but I mean, that's fine that we do it, and sometimes we do it in a joking way. But this was ripped apart 3 weeks ago, and was this not one of the trades that set off the big debacle? And now all of a sudden, India, who's done it before at the major league level, won Rookie of the Year just 2 years ago, is on pace for 120 runs, 32 steals, that's not okay. That's amazing. And Bogaerts, yeah, he's doing fine. I said he'd have a career year. He's doing good. He's doing fine. He's on pace for a good year, but there's Bryce getting a very cheap keeper back. Like, what's wrong with that trade for Bryce? But it got ripped apart just 2 weeks ago.
This trade happened on the 24th. Since the 24th, India has stolen 4 bases and scored a shit ton of runs. Granted,
but that's part of fantasy.
He was doing that before, like, a little bit, but like he's also turned it on a little bit and continued to be very good. So,
and I said I wouldn't have made that trade in June if India kept playing at that level. Did I not? That was one of the things I said. If India kept playing at this level, I would not have done this trade in June. Mm-hmm. So your point of why didn't you wait till June or July to do it? If India's an all-star and is playing at that, and he's a $3 player, I'm not doing it then. Like that was my point, and no one wanted to buy it. And now all of a sudden the trade looks fine.
It looks fine now. It does look fine now, because basically over the last 2-3 weeks since it happened, India has basically played better than Bogaerts, which none of us saw coming, and that is what it is. So,
but he can play even a little bit less than Bogaerts, and it's a $3 player for a C contract, dude.
Yeah.
But this had to wait till June or July. Why? And this was one of the trades that started the whole. I'm not feeling good about the league. I mean, we got to call it how we see it, dude. I mean, this was 2 weeks ago.
Let's see, it's 24th. This is 3 weeks ago.
Okay, 3 weeks ago. But that's my point. You want to go off on all these rants about people this is not a bad trade for either of us. This was not a
bad trade because you got major league talent back, and McCullers still isn't an asset, and he won't be an asset.
I'm gonna back up, boys, because when we say I'm fucking people over in trades and this and that, like you always talk about the value you're giving back to players and how Bryce might have a couple keepers and or what was his name? Tovar, that's on a pace for a 2020 year when he's on pace for a 4.4.
I didn't say he was on pace for a 2020 year.
Well, no, sorry, you didn't say on pace. You said he could be a 2020 player. You're right. But I'm just saying, like, it's just funny to me how like my trades get ripped or I'm fucking people over, and I know some of it's joking around, and I get that, but this was a trade that people were like blowing the fucking earth over, and now literally 3 weeks later, in May, it's fine.
Okay.
There's my rant.
Hey, look who made a trade. Bryce and Tyler. Bryce sent out Alec Thomas, Jake Fraley, and Yohan Moncada. Yohan Moncada being the cheap prostitute of 2023. Got back Jake McCarthy and Riley Green. Jake McCarthy not on a major league team anymore. Riley Green
doing pretty good.
Dog water.
I
3 home
guess.
runs, 15 RBIs, a 323 on base percentage. 5 stolen bases ain't bad. He's on pace for 12 homers and 20 steals. Skiddly do. He gave up not much.
80 runs.
Gave up Jake Fraley, who is on pace for much more than that, and plays in Cincinnati and much less at bats. Jake Fraley is probably the best asset in this deal. He's probably the only asset in this deal, and he gave him up for fucking nothing. Awesome. All right. Anything else? I don't know.
No, not really. I think the Green Fraley thing's not as. I mean, I don't think it's as bad as people think. I think Green's going to be a pretty good player, but I mean, he's on pace for 12 home runs, 60 RBIs, 20 steals, and 80 runs scored.
Who's that?
Riley Green.
Yeah.
But that's a very like Verdugo-ish type numbers. I mean, not great, but it's not. I mean, it's fine.
That's great value, Alex Verdugo.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much to talk about there. It's not like it's kind of either way.
Yeah. All right. Where do I want to go on this one? Dex gave up Jordan Alvarez and Jesse Winker for Giancarlo Stanton, Jorge Mateo, and Esterio Ruiz.
Hold on.
Not gonna get enough.
Here's the thing about this one, though. You know what? I'll let you talk first because I'll just let you go first.
It's not an F, but it's a D. I mean, Jorge Mateo has been great, and he is already starting to slow down because that's not the player that he's ever been advertised. It's not the player that he is. So even over the last 2 weeks, let's pull up his numbers over the last 2 weeks. Another thing in here, past 14 days, 2-2 and a 188 on base percentage. So 2 home runs, 2 steals, and 188 on base percentage over the last 2 weeks. Not great. Even over the last month, he's down to a 284 on base percentage. So he's hurting you on base percentage. The RBIs aren't going to be there. The home runs might be there. You might get you like 15 homers, if that, but I don't think he's going to hit you 20. Even though he's on pace for 24, I'd say, or 24 or 25 or 30 is the pace he's on. He's not going to finish to more than 20 homers. If he does, come at me. You can at me in this if Jorge Mateo finishes with more than 20 home runs.
Didn't he have like 15 last year?
Yeah. He had 13 last year. 13 last year and 500 at-bats. So not a 20 home run player. He's fine. He's probably going to be an asset at $1, whatever he has. He's, played well enough. I just hope that, whoever the prospect is for Baltimore isn't ready because he is a better baseball player than Jorge Mateo is. Even though Jorge Mateo is a better fantasy player, whoever, what's his name? Some Rodriguez or something. I don't know.
Jackson Holiday?
Holiday.
He's 3 years away. 2 years at least.
Hopefully he's 3 years away and Jorge Mateo still has a job and like the start of next spring. But Esterio Ruiz, he's started to heat up a little bit.
What's he on pace for?
18 stolen base, on base for over 60 steals.
Okay.
That's solid. Not really offering you much else with his 1 home run. He's basically 2022 Jorge Mateo, I guess you could say. On base percentage is playable. If it's a lower on base percentage, you'd be questionable. But if he continues at 339 on base percentage, if he steals 60 bags, even though he's gonna probably score less than 60 runs and hit less than 50 RBIs.
Okay, when we're hey, you're a math guy. That's almost 80 runs.
No, I'm not gonna do the math thing.
Yeah.
Because the A's just suck. And Giancarlo Stanton, who's always hurt and is hurt again. I just, like I said, the thing about this one, I don't want to make it too personal, but I'll get a little bit personal. It's just that, and when I asked about Yordan Alvarez, I was told that the price was astronomical, and then a week later, he gave up for this. So just a little frustrated. I just thought that you could kind of shop him around a little bit. But hey, if these are the guys that he wanted, and you believe that Esteury Ruiz is going to steal 60 bags, and you want the speed, and you like Jorge Mateo, and you're a Giancarlo Stanton guy, then that's your package, and then that's your package. But I was told I needed to give up 3 All-Stars for him, so that's kind of where we're at there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the timing of this trade was good for Dexter. I think it was April. I think his team was competing head-to-head wise, roto wise. His team was doing good. I mean,
team has been solid.
He had the monster duo of Alvarez and Vlad. I mean, that right there can carry an offense for a long stretch of time. I would think, as long as both are healthy. You could argue those are the 2 best. I mean, 2 of the 5 best hitters in baseball. I mean, Vlad and Alvarez is just a fucking beast, man. I mean, he just is. So I'm not going to sit here and defend the trade. That's not what I'm doing by any means. I don't think it worked. I don't think this is what I would have tried to get back for Alvarez. It's just not.
Plus, but he was like on the fringe of getting Harper and adding Harper to that.
Right. And like I said, this is not a return I would have asked for Alvarez, and especially competing as I wouldn't have felt comfortable giving this up for that. I just wouldn't have, flat out simple. I never would have done this trade ever for me. But again, looking at this only 2 weeks later, we'll see what this looks like in September.
Might work out for him.
Yeah, we'll see what this looks like in September, because if there's one team that's going to randomly have a 60 steal guy because their team's going to have it, it's going to be freaking the A's, and he's their leadoff hitter. And the fact that he has 18 steals right now is kind of.
Laureano was involved in this trade?
I don't think so.
Kidding.
Oh, I know. Sorry. I got that one now. But no, I think overall it'll be interesting to see how it works out. Again, I wouldn't have done it, but it is, I guess, I don't know.
It could work out very well for Dex. It's looking like it will work out very well. If Jorge Mateo goes out and finishes 18 home runs and 40 stolen bases, and for $1, and then Esteury Ruiz is going to steal 60 bags, and next year Dex walks into the draft with $4 and 100 steals between 2 players.
That's crazy. Yeah,
he gets to go just draft. He gets to add to Bryce Harper, and he gets to go add Vlad and Yordan Alvarez back, and whoever the hell else he wants to add.
Power.
To build, whatever power he wants to build from there. I mean, that could be a viable strategy, or go the pitching route. I mean, he'll have the power to do that. So, I mean, it's okay. It's just not the return for Yordan Alvarez that I would expect. But
I think what some of
the time of this trade, that both those players have played well. I guess one's played better, one's played worse, but.
And I think what some of the frustration for you is too is, and you've kind of said it a little bit, is like the teams that are kind of punting for next year. You're saying like they could sometimes get C contracts and then flip those, and they're not really getting that. They're strictly looking for A's and B's. I mean, I've been shut down for guys because I don't have enough A's or B's, because they're like, oh, that's all I want. I want keepers. I want keepers. Yeah. So I think that's a little bit of it too, where they're like,
Dave said this too. Yeah, you could trade for 2 good A players and then trade for like a decent C, and then you just flip that decent C to another team that wants that decent C for another A. Right. If the team you're looking for doesn't have that player.
And that's where that conversation came up, where earlier in the season, I said it even before the draft, where right when the season's over, those C contract players are going to be worth more now than they are in June. I guess, I mean, you kind of disagree on that a little bit, but I don't see how that's. I mean, the season starts cutting down where you're getting that player for less and less games each time. And that's why I think some of these guys are getting moved in April and May. And that's why when there's this worry of like, I think guys are punting too early. I think you're only going to see this so heavily in a year 3 like this, when there's so many C contracts and guys are going all in. We've seen Krim go all in. We've seen Chad largely go all in. We've seen We've seen me largely go all in with all the. So I just think it's one of those. It's that third odd.
You haven't had to go all in. You still have Painter and other guys on your team.
I do, and that was going to get sent for Galvin.
You've gotten these stud players. You haven't had to go all in yet. Because there's
Well,
other players, and going back to that trade that you made with Jordan, it's like, why was Painter not even involved in that? I don't understand that.
to say he wasn't even it was one of those things where he might have been asked and he was in the conversation, but he wasn't an MLB talent.
Yeah.
That's just. But again, some people don't know the prospects like other people do, and that's just kind of how it is. And the funny thing is, 2 years ago, you scoffed at the idea of prospects even being drafted, and here we are 2 years later saying that a prospect should have been traded for him. So I mean, it's just it's funny how it works out.
That's the difference is if you're in April and you're already looking 2024, like we weren't when we started this 2 years ago, we weren't ahead of teams building for the following year,
right?
In April.
And how much of this is also a guy taking over a team that he's been told is trash and trying to rebuild it? I mean, Corey tried to rebuild it last year, so there's a little bit of that in it too that I think we're not. But there's a little bit of that in it too that I don't think everyone's quite looking at. Where Jordan's like, "Hey, your team's trash. You got to rebuild." I mean, I remember the first conversation I had with him was, "I am literally only looking for keepers. That's it. A's and B's, A's and B's. Like C's were completely off the table. So I mean, what do you do with that? Like they're just completely done. So it's tough. I mean, there's been times where I've tried to trade with teams and I'll look at their team and I'll go, what I have and what they have just don't make sense. There's just no point. It just doesn't match. So I don't want to spend too much time on it, but yeah.
All right, so then Dex in the fire sale traded Vlad for Luis Robert and Jordan Lawler. This is another one of those where it's like, I mean, I don't know, is this trade not there in 2 months? Is Lawler about to get called up? And you know, we don't know what Jordan Lawler is. We don't know when he's going to get called up. We don't know if it's even going to be this year. Sure, he was taken in the first round of the reserve draft by Krim. But I mean, Krim, I think, does a good job here. I mean, gets a guy in Vlad who he knows he can count on. It's on a C contract. He's kind of going all in. Definitely playing better than Luis Robert.
Is he though? Is he though?
Is he? Is he not?
Robert's on pace for 40 home runs and 120 runs scored.
We know Luis Robert's not going to get 600.
No, I know, but sure. I mean, he might get hurt. Granted, yes. I mean, that's happened. We know
that would assume 600 at bats for.
There's injury history, and again,
it's not happening.
I will say the exact same thing I said in the last trade. Would I have done this if I was Dex? No. I was competing how I was. Let's again perspective, right? Dex was doing really well head to head at this point.
He is on pace for 140, 100, and 331 on base percentage. Yes, I'll give you that.
And the steals are kind of down too. So the Robert's really not getting the steals. But it's one of those things where, I mean, Lawler's a top 5 prospect in baseball. We talk about Painter.
Vlad has more steals than.
I know. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. But Lawler's a top 5 prospect in baseball, top 6 prospect, where he's right there with the Painter and the Cruzes from my team. I mean, we're talking that's a guy that would be taken. He's the Volpe of next year. I mean, he is. So do I think Dexter should be selling necessarily late April? No. It's all timing. But is the trade really like that awful if Dexter's looking at like keeping a guy? I don't think so.
Yeah. So let's see here. I'll give Dex I'll give him a B here. I think it makes sense if Luis Robert is actually gonna. No, I don't. Do we believe in Luis Robert?
Not really, but I mean the numbers aren't bad.
Absolutely not. They told the dude he can't even run to first base hard. There's been video of him multiple times this year jogging to first base.
I think he got
hurt. 23 fucking years old. This is the guy that was supposed to be the next Mike Trout. Yeah. And he's been told to not even run hard to first base. No.
And he's never hit 100 games ever. He's never hit 100 games yet.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The dude's got all the talent in the world, but he can't stay on the field.
And that's what I'm saying. These last 2 Dexter trades, again, I wouldn't have done them, but I don't think most of us would have done them, but I don't think they're as bad as we made them out to be. They're not. It's not like, oh my God, it's just so one-sided. I just don't think they're that. They're not good, but they're not. Oh,
yeah. So yeah, I don't know what kind of grade to give here. I mean, it's not a bad return. It depends on if he flips Luis Robert into a contract or 2, a solid, keeper, then maybe it's a little bit more favorable.
Yeah.
Maybe look at it a little bit differently, but I don't think it's a bad return. So I'll give it a C, and I'll give Krim. Does Krim have speed? I guess it doesn't really matter. I'll give Krim an A-.
Yeah, I feel like that's fair. Yeah, because and again, I would trust Vlad more than Robert, and Krim's trying to win. It just makes sense, right? Boom.
All right. Let's see here. Next, Krim got involved with it made a deal with the devil. And myself, he traded away Brandon Woodruff, Ty France, John Gray. He's been elite, by the way. And Kyle Schwarber, and got back Isaac Paredes, or Isaac Paredes, Tony Disco, Anthony Discofani, Kevin Gausman, and the aforementioned Will Myers. Yeah, this was definitely an interesting trade. Some different categories being swapped here. I think Krim kind of looked at this and went, this is kind of coming near the report of Brandon Woodruff being out till June, late June. Not really sure how many innings Brandon Woodruff's going to pitch this year. Wanted to address the pitching. Kevin Gausman, who has been pretty elite this year, he's been pretty great. He's had 2 bad starts, but other than that, he's been rock solid. One of the best pitchers in the league. Desclafani, who's pitched really well. He's pitched to a 3 ERA and a .96 WHIP, and I think he got lit up in one of his last starts too. So I think that's inflated by his most recent start. And Paredes, who got off to a hot start, but has since kind of slowed down, but hitting in that good Rays lineup. I think everybody on the Rays is kind of coming back down to earth here lately. Gave up Kyle Schwarber, who's been slow. Ty France, who started off hot and then went 1 for his next 25. And then John Gray is blah, is just a guy. And then Woodruff, who knows how many innings we're going to get out of him this year. So that's kind of the outline of what happened. Eric, what was your reaction to this move? Because I think you didn't like it much for Krim.
My initial, no, when it first went down, and again, we're only 12 days since then. When it first went down, I did not really like it for Krim because I think France as a $1 player was nice. But the thing with France is he just doesn't have much power for that position, and he never has, and that's the tough thing. So unless
when your first baseman isn't going to hit you 25 home runs.
Right. I mean, maybe not even 20. I think he's done it once. Yeah, he's done it one time. So, but I mean, at a $1 player, you can't hate that, and that's what I liked about it. He also, when we look at Krim's team, he needed power. He needed RBIs. So then when I saw he switched up and gave up Schwarber, that just can kind of confuse me a little bit. And then I know he got Vlad back, and I know he made that trade preceding that, but like I think he needed Vlad and Schwarber. Like he needed power. So yeah, you got power back in Vlad, but you just traded it away. And the funny thing is, oh, by the way, Robert actually has more home runs than Vlad right now. So really, he didn't gain any power. So that part was tough. But the longer Woodruff is out, the more and more this makes it tougher to say this went bad for Krim because Gausman has been continuously good. I mean, 67 Ks in 48 innings is pretty elite. So Gausman continues to do so. The longer Woodruff is out right now, Descalfani and Gray kind of wash each other out. Schwarber has been fine. Paredes has been, like you said, pretty decent so far. He's kind of not great. I mean, you could put him in as a utility guy, not bad. So right now, I got to give it to Krim just because Gausman's playing and Woodruff isn't. So it's tough. Like I said, I would still probably take Woodruff as a pitcher over Gausman, but maybe that's turning these last couple of years because Gausman's really, really been good.
The thing about Gausman is like, yeah, he's had some really good starts. For whatever reason, the last year and this year, he's been getting hit hard. And like his batting average on balls in play, BABIP one might call it, is just really high, where it's just like the balls that get hit just find holes and they get hit hard for line drives and all that. And he manages a solid ERA, but that's why his whip is always kind of high. He's got 1.1 whip, which is pretty high for a guy that we consider to be elite with as many strikeouts as he has. You'd think a guy with like a strikeout rate that he has would be a little bit better at limiting hard contact, but even a 1.23, you pointed to that last year, 1.23 whip. That's like below league average or above, depending on how you want to look at it, like worse than what the league average whip is. So, I know it's kind of an overlooked category, but I mean, I think it's helping you so much in strikeouts that you kind of overlook the whip. But yeah, I mean, it's just not the kind of whip that you'd expect from what you would want to be like an ace level production. So I think it's kind of something to kind of keep an eye on, but yeah, it's, until Brandon Woodruff's on the mound, I think Krim's team got better. But I think that Brandon Woodruff will be the better pitcher when he does come back, if he does come back. Well, there's still steps that have to happen, through, and Milwaukee has to get better. Milwaukee is not going to bring it back in late June if they're, 15 games out of the division. They're going to, probably just mail it in.
And Schwarber's also, he's usually kind of a slower starter too. So, and he's still on pace for 36 home runs. It's just a little bit lower OBP, a little bit lower RBI. So like if Schwarber returns to 45 home runs and 100 RBIs and Woodruff pitches again, then all of a sudden we look back on this in 3 months and go, yeah, Kyle, you killed it, but we'll see.
Yep. I kind of liked where I'm at now, hanging around in third place. I just kind of wanted to hang around a little bit. I'm third place net ahead, like third place in Roto. So just kind of more of an end of the season move for me. So kind of like that part about it. Next, Justin and I swung a trade. We swapped Josiah Gray for Reed Detmers. is working out well for Justin so far, as Josiah
Yeah.
Gray's dealing. Reed Detmers is not, to say the least.
Yeah. Straight 1-for-1. Gray's better. Detmers isn't right now. So that's
Yeah.
the shenanigans. Yeah.
I
And
believe.
how many people has Gray swapped that? He's been a guy that's been off and on teams like
Yeah.
crazy the last couple
Yep.
years on waivers too. Just
Yep.
nuts.
He's always been just a fringe guy. Reed Detmers, I do still believe in. He's still got the velocity on his slider. He just doesn't know where to throw it right now. I believe that he will still be good. Showed flash today through 5 scoreless innings and then gave up 2 in the 6th inning and then got yanked. So,
Yep.
I mean, he's kind of showing flashes. I believe in him. I want to root for the Angels, but yeah, it's just not showing so far. Josiah Gray, not a guy that I like really believe in. He's been solid, and I'd rather just have the A contract than C contract, but I think it's working out well for both. I also believe that Josiah Gray has a 2-start week next week, and like he plays like the Marlins and like somebody else next week, and it's just like I know he's got a 2-start week next week versus some really good matchups. But Justin, do you have those matchups?
I can pull them up.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so I mean, I think it kind of both teams got what they wanted. Just for me, it was just swapping bench pieces. For Justin, it's getting a guy that he slotted right into his lineup and is producing for him. So
Marlins and Detroit.
What's that?
Marlins and Detroit.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that in a 2-start week.
Yep.
So yeah. Next we have Crim's Crew and Jay swinging another trade where let's see here. Crim gave up Jordan Montgomery. How did he end up with Jordan Montgomery? I don't even remember. And then from the Bryce trade. And wait. Yeah. Crim gave up Jordan Montgomery, got back Bailey Over, Carlos Estevez, and Tanner Bybee. What a deal. What a deal for what a deal for Crim. Crim got back Tanner Bybee, who's been solid this year, Estevez, who is now the closer in LA, and Bailey Ober, who's been pretty good for Minnesota now too. 1.85 ERA, 4.9 WHIP. And only had to give up Jordan Montgomery, who's pitching.
That's what I'm saying. And this was only made 9 days ago. It's not like there's much retrospect to look on this one. I was kind of stunned that Jay made this move. I know he was looking maybe for a more solidified pitching arm, but the waiver wire is really dry when it comes to pitching most times. So if you even got a guy that's got 25, 30 innings that has looked solid, you don't want to give up on that too fast. And I just think he did. And the fact that he just gave up man, the closer is the one that really sticks out here, I think.
Yeah, closer on a team that is looking to contend. I mean, the LA could win 80, 90 games this year. So, you know, those closers don't grow on trees. I don't know how good Estevez is, but he's got the role right now. So yeah. Kind of had a head scratcher there. But yeah, Jay's kind of made some trades that have kind of gone both ways so far this year. So
power rankings are interesting.
He likes his 3-for-1s, but yeah, we haven't gotten into team by teams and power rankings yet. We're already an hour in. Oh God. All right. Next we have Tyler and Dex. Dex gave up JD Davis, Will Smith, Edmundo Sosa, and Alec Boehm. Got back Jordan Walker, Tim Anderson, Oswaldo Peraza, and William Contreras. What do you think, Eric? I didn't really follow this one very well. I don't know. Maybe there's just too many guys and too many skill levels. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's tough to look at all the contracts too. I don't know who is all season stuff. I wish it was easy to pull up from that screen, but I'm looking at it on my phone. But I don't hate it for Dexter because I mean I know Peraza's IL, but but again, top prospect guy, Tim Anderson, we'll see what happens there. But he's kind of off to a really, really slow start too. He got off to a really fast one. Then he's boom, been trashed since. So it's kind of one of those where there's a lot of moving pieces, but there's not a whole lot here that I'm like okay at. So I guess I give it to Tyler because you get Will Smith, Alec Bomb's off to a pretty good start. And obviously we talked about JD Davis earlier. He's doing pretty well. So I guess Tyler right now.
Yeah, I really don't know.
Is Jordan? I mean, we talked about Jordan Walker earlier.
Kind of a wash. I mean, Alec Boehm and Will. It's basically like Alec Boehm and Will Smith for me. I guess JD Davis has been pretty solid too. So, you know, I guess Tyler's kind of adding Boehm, Smith, and JD Davis. Gave up Tim Anderson and I guess Jordan Walker. So. Yeah, I mean, I guess I like this move for Tyler, kind of in hindsight. I think with Jordan Walker being in the minors, not knowing when he's going to be coming back up, I expect him to be up at some point for the end of the year.
Yes.
You know, especially he's probably one injury away, and you know, once he gets it figured out, whatever he needs to figure out, he'll be back up. So yeah, I think I like this for Tyler, even though I'm not kind of to be determined on on Dex's team here on what happens with Jordan Walker and Peraza here if they can kind of be something. But
Right.
it's whatever. It's kind of a wash both ways.
Agreed.
Next, Tanner Bybee and Carlos Estevez from Crim's Crew, who he just got from Jay, and he traded them for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
what,
I mean,
what was this?
the fact that he was able to get Estevez as a closer and then he just completely sent him away for, yeah, I don't know.
For a 5 home run, 21 RBI, 20 run score guy with a okay on base percentage and no steals.
And Brian Anderson again has never been like an everyday guy either.
Why has Johan Moncada been traded 5 fucking times? He's not good. He never has been good. Why does people keep wanting him in trades?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess he hits 4th on the White Sox. I guess that's saying something.
Once?
I don't know.
It's not a good lineup to hit 4th in.
But I mean, really, the key here is Estevez, and the fact that again he was a closer traded for that. That's tough. Is Iglesias getting that role back? Like I don't know. Like no, yeah, I don't know.
Atlanta.
Oh, sorry, yeah, so, yeah, exactly. So exactly, I don't even know. Yeah. So again, I don't see much rationale in here. Sorry, Krim.
F and A for Tyler. Are we gonna go through another
like,
where Tyler gets?
I'm not even gonna. I wasn't gonna say anything, but now I am because you're pissing me off. This whole thing about this closer shit. The dude's a C contract player. I don't.
He's still a fucking closer.
Listen, I don't. I have the best closer in baseball. I don't need a second closer. So
Why
getting
not?
a contract, I don't have a place to put him.
In your fucking lineup, like everybody else who has 2 closers.
You can
I
dominate
don't
the
even need two closers.
you could dominate the saves category, or if Estevez does this for another month, then people are buying closers. Like
Sure,
you got
yeah, sure. Yeah. At the same time, yes, this man can also lose his job in a month. For all we know, that you're playing that game, which is something you've talked about the entire time.
yes, I guess
However,
sell low.
Yeah. However, the biggest pain point for me this season has been my offense. I'm going to take a flyer on Yohan Moncada, who's coming back from injury, where maybe I'm getting him at a low price. He's an A contract. We have no clue what's going to happen in the next 4 months, right? Is he on a shit team? I don't know. The team's picked it up as of late, so I mean, since I've been in the team where I'm in the middle of shit, I mean, it's kind of where we're at this point.
Yeah, I guess.
I guess we're going to get to a trade that contradicts that in a little bit, but that trade is also a no-brainer.
Oh,
so
yeah.
There's not really a whole lot to be said. Oh, hey, we're here. Bryce made a trade. He traded Ronald Acuna, Ryan Mountcastle, and Alex Wood for Masataka Yoshida, Martin Perez, Josh Rojas, and Kike Hernandez, the headliner himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Kike. One might call him a Kike Hernandez. I go ahead. I don't know anymore. I don't know. What's there to say?
I mean, I don't like it. I'm not a huge fan of this for Bryce. He's obviously pulling on his Red Sox love here. It's tough because it's one of those things where we always say you can get 2 or 3 keepers for Acuna. But again, here's where I'll bite back on that a little bit. If you're doing that in June or July, you're not necessarily, unless they're prospects or something, and you're trying to compete, you're not giving up 2 or 3 keepers that are helping you at the major league level right now, helping your team for Acuna. So that's why when I keep hearing, oh, you get 2 or 3 keepers back for Acuna, you get, if Yoshida stays at $1, and let's just play that game where he goes and does ×4 what he just did, and he's a 24 home run, 100 RBI, almost 400 on base percentage, 100 run guy, and Bryce gets that for $1, he's going to look at that and say, I was getting nothing, or I was going to have to sell Acuna. I got a dynamite $1 player in Yoshida. I wasn't going to win this year anyway. So it's, again, I don't love this. It's kind of going back to the next ones. I don't love this trade for Bryce. Do I think he could have got more? Yes, I do. I do think he could have got more. Do I think he needed to tack on No, I don't. But again, it's one of those things where if you feel like you can get even just 100% dynamite cheap keeper out of it and it ends up working out, then it might. That's the only saving grace I can really have. But to sit there and say, oh, he could get 2 or 3 keepers for Acuna, maybe. But would if you were Bryce, would you, if I had Painter and Cruz just waiting in there, would you have taken Painter and Cruz instead of this deal and just said, oh, 2 top prospects for next year? Or would that not have been enough for Acuna either? So I don't know. It's tough.
to me, I need one, at least one, 1.5, maybe two guys who I know I'm going to keep the following year. That is the very minimum of what I want for a Ronald Acuna type player. Those players would include like an Andres Jimenez and a Joe Ryan or Spencer Strider or Nestor Cortez or Jonathan India or some type of player who I know that have produced at the big league level, who I know are going to be keepers regardless of injury, regardless of whatever else. One thing that you are discounting, one thing that you are forgetting is injuries do happen for both sides. So we also look at guys where like maybe a contender, like maybe myself, like maybe Spencer Strider, like maybe he like has an ankle injury, or maybe he has some shoulder surgery. Maybe it's not going to rule him out for 2024. But if Spencer Strider goes out next week and then he's going to be back for the 2023 season, I am trading him for the best thing that I can get, because I'm going to be all in for 2024. And is a $6 or a $7 Spencer Strider better than just about any asset in the entire league? Yes, it is. And that's the type of trade that you wait for when it's on the table. I just don't view the type of returns that I'm seeing here as returns of surefire players for next year. And sure, maybe like, I mean, obviously Bryce being the Red Sox fan, and the writing was on the wall here. Krim knew that he had Bryce in his back pocket, where it's this Yoshida guy for $1 next year, that he was going to be the best thing that Bryce had his eye on all year. So that just ends up being is what it is. Oh, by the way, Bryce is just like, here, take Ryan Mountcastle too, because why not? It would Ryan Mountcastle, who's got 8 home runs and 27 RBIs and 25 runs scored, who's been pretty solid this year. Just as kind of a throw-in, I guess. Yeah, it's just a little bit of a head scratcher. I mean, we can get in. I'm going to get into it now. I'm going to click on Bryce's team here. Bryce has turned Ozzie Albies, Xander Bogaerts, and Ronald Acuna. If we were to list out like the top 50 assets in the league of like assets for 2024, I don't think that Bryce has more than like 3 on the list. And like, that's like the thing that I'm looking at, where it's just like, who are the guys that are like the surefire guys for like 2024? If I don't know if we're too far into it. We've gone too slow so far to even go into this. But like, if I were to look at like all the A and the B contracts and were to rank those players and what they were going to be for 2024, like, I don't think Bryce has like the kind of guys that we're looking at for those this year. Like Yoshida, sure, he's in the top 50. I don't know if he's in the top 10. Like India, sure, he's probably going to be in the top 50s. Probably not going to be in the top 10 for next year. Maybe, I don't know. Vargas is a maybe, but
where are you getting a top 10 keeper next year? Because no one's going to give that up if they're trying to win also. That's what I'm saying. Like
if they're healthy, maybe,
you're getting a top,
like,
but you just banked on a Spencer Strider injury happening. Like, how we don't know that's going to happen, but that's what you just used.
It could.
But you can't.
Drew Rasmussen.
But right. But he wouldn't take Drew Rasmussen for Acuna straight up right now, and that wouldn't be a better deal than what he got. I would take Yoshida too.
Drew Rasmussen, Painter, and Ellie De La Cruz.
I would take that over Yoshida. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I feel like that's a better offer than what he got.
But it wasn't given.
Yeah, because you traded him for like without really telling people that you were trading Acuna. You didn't let people get their offers in, and he had offers for like he had a Joe Ryan offer. He had Andres Jimenez offer. Andres Jimenez is underperforming this year. So if you don't like
Andres exactly.
Jimenez, I get it. So whatever.
Yoshida's been better than Jimenez. So again, apples to oranges, or like, I mean, that's
and then that is what it is. So
and again, I'll reiterate that I don't love this trade for Bryce either. I think he could have got more for Acuna, but when we all immediately just go to the chat and just go, boom, this is awful, the integrity, this is just I don't know. I mean, when we're saying he should have a top 10 value on his team, if I'm trying to win this year, I'm putting the chips in, which a lot of teams are doing. Chad's putting all the chips in this year. He's not going to give up a guy on his team that's doing well at the major league level, that is killing it, that's a surefire keeper next year, for Acuna, who you also said is an injury prone player. So like you said, I would rather give up 2 prospects. I would give up a Cruz and a Paint to load up on prospects, to load up on player. And if you've noticed, a lot of the trades I've been doing have been giving up players that are the potential. So like, I don't I just don't know where you're going to get a top 10 value back. You're not trading. You wouldn't trade Strider for Acuna straight up right now because he's not hurt, right?
No.
I wouldn't do that.
No.
You sure as hell wouldn't do that. So like, you can't look at, oh, well, he could blow out his arm and then you could get him later. Like, you just, I don't know. Is it too early to make this trade, Bryce? Probably. Your team's trash anyway. So really, would June or July have been better when Acuna's value is less? No, it's not. So you don't, I just don't know how you can sit there and say, well, he didn't say he was available. We all know Bryce is selling. We all know Bryce's team is shit. Try to trade for him.
2 guys messaged him, and Bryce said he was going to stay put. He said I asked him, I asked him about Acuna the day before he traded him. He said I'm going to stay put.
And I know 3 teams that sent him a whole list of players, and he never got back to them about them.
Well,
so.
I don't know. And he's on your side. So
negligence. Negligence is what I would call it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know where that split is that you were talking about, because that's on both sides of the
Send me the thin list. Give me the list, buddies.
Yeah. No, I think that was a little baseless when I was talking about kind of the sides thing, but yeah. But I mean,
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's a great trade for him. I mean, he, like you said, he's banking on his Red Sox love, just as Dave banks on his Charger love. It might be premature, but if Yoshida is a 25-25 player with 100 runs scored, and Bryce ended up getting him for a C contract to Cunha, and he goes into next year with a $1 Yoshida, and he's a dynamite keeper, Bryce wasn't winning this year. I mean, would you really think he was getting 2 or 3 keepers back for him? You always scoff at prospects, but you're sitting there saying Painter and Cruz would have been better.
Yeah, when they're not the headliner.
Who else would I have given up on?
The headliner would have been Rasmussen, because Rasmussen is now an established guy who's been doing it for 2 years, who is like, okay, I know that going into 2024, if Drew Rasmussen is on the mound, I can pencil in a 3 ERA and a 1 whip. And then on top of that, I'm getting him, who I know I am keeping, plus 2 guys who I could take flyers on.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. Like I said, I think he could have got more too. I do. I don't disagree with you on that. I'm playing a little devil's advocate here, but I don't disagree with you on that one. I think he could have got more, but I also will continue to say that I don't think if teams are trying to win this year, they're not giving up guys that are like super duper helping them win this year. They're not going to just necessarily just give that up for an Acuna. I know that sounds silly, but they're not. I mean, again, it totally depends on everything that's involved. I totally get that, but it's kind of going back to the India Bogarts thing. I liked India's start. He's done it before. I got Bogarts in return. Oh, India's kind of almost playing a little bit better than Bogarts now. No one would have predicted that. So I don't know. It's tough to say. Acuna could break his leg tomorrow, as he's done twice in his career already.
Don't say that. But at the same time, too, I know you guys are running long, but Bryce did look at Yoshida and Acuna. Number-wise, take away steals, so Acuna is absolutely just destroying that category. They're the same player on paper. Outside of the OBP being a pretty good chunk higher, home runs, RBIs, runs scored were essentially the same for those players side by side. So if Bryce is looking at it as getting $1, like that guy, same getting Acuna Jr. in a sense for $1 next year, why would you not? If you think he's going to do it again, obviously.
And me and Krim talk a lot. Obviously, we talk on Xbox all the time and all this and that. Krim didn't necessarily even want to trade Yoshida. He was hesitant to do that because he literally said that exact same thing to me. He goes, they're almost the same player right now. Outside of Acuna having those steals, I'm adding $50 to my lineup, which now Krim I think is getting kind of close. I can't remember, kind of closest to salary mark, which he thought about. And I'm trading away Yoshida, which is essentially right now outside of the steals that Acuna has, is obviously the same player. So it's tough.
Was Chad's offer better?
I have no idea. I don't know what Chad's offer was. I have no idea.
Is that one from?
Oh, the one that got canceled. I see what you're saying.
Of Santander, Glasnow, and Nolan Gorman.
Is Gorman off to a hot start, right? I can't remember.
But then now that Contreras is playing more DH,
he's doing pretty good. Yeah, Gorman's doing pretty good.
Wasn't great, but I kind of like it better than the return he got. Plus he didn't have to give up what's his name, Mountcastle.
Yeah.
But
I think Santander and Gorman are better than Yoshida. Yeah, I would take that package.
All right, we've gone way too long on this. We got one left, and it is Chad sending out Lucas Giolito, Anthony Santander, Marcus Stroman, and Jose Abreu, who's not even startable right now, for Jofflo, Drew Smiley, Zach Gallen, headliner, and Jose Alvarado. What do you think of this one? So this one's got a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, it does. I mean, again, if Dexter's taking the whole I'm not competing approach, getting guys like Stroman and Santander as possible keepers for next year makes sense. But Chad's again all in those chips. He was able to get Gallon out of it. He was able to get Alvarado out of it. Chad's loading up. I mean, his team's he's doing a good job with a lot of moves he's made. You can't scoff at that for sure. And the fact that he got out of the Giolito thing, yeah, I mean, I like it for Chad. I do.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense for Chad. And if Stroman keeps this up, he'll be a keeper. Santander's been pretty disappointing this year. 16 runs, 5 homers, 20 RBIs. That's not really what you were
No.
expecting out of him in the offseason. You're expecting more of like a 30 home run, 100 RBI guy. So I mean, he's going to need to pick it up if it's going to be worth his while. But I mean, Josh Lowe has been much better than that this year. 22 runs, 9 homers, 28 RBIs, 371 on base percentage, and 6 steals. I mean, he's been really solid this year. So yeah, I mean, this is a huge win for Chad. I don't think Dex got a whole lot back here, so definitely a win for Chad. I'll give Dex a D here. He kind of sold low on Gallon, Alvarado, and he got some decent guys back. Maybe he flips Giolito into some pieces. I don't know how many pieces are left back there, and I don't know if people are giving him up for Giolito, but yeah.
Just for fun, be the mutual GM here. I just told you pre-show I didn't even know this trade happened until yesterday. I was actually going to message Dexter. Would you have taken, just for fun, would you have taken Rasmussen, Painter, and Cruz for Gallon?
I would have. That's a better return, I feel like, than what
You would have accepted that over
because
that?
I think Rasmussen's better than Stroman. And then I would rather have those two versus anybody else here, unless he is able to flip Giolito into like something that's actually decent. I mean, like you could very well just turn maybe Giolito in one or two of those guys that you just mentioned. Then maybe that's something.
Because that's what my offer would have been, and I wondered if it would have got done based on all the pitching injuries I had. I literally was like, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to fucking go all in, and then I'm like, fuck, I didn't see he got traded already.
Holy cow, we are an hour and a half in and we haven't even gotten to our power rankings yet.
That's why I said we should do it team by team. This is what happens when we do that.
Yeah, I think this is still more valuable. Anyway, man, I guess we're gonna start from the bottom, work our way up. We're gonna start with Bryce and talk about how his team's a dumpster fire because he's number 14 in our power rankings. I already have his team pulled up. The pitching staff is the second worst in the league. Actually, no, it's not. It's actually pretty. One of the raw numbers. Actually, if you look at what his ERAs are, it's decent. Maybe it's because he's got all relievers in there. It kind of looks a little bit skewed. Mitch Keller has been damn near elite this year. Hunter Brown's been good. Martin Perez has been ass, as a lot of people expected. Doval has closed out several games. Adams now closing games. Gallegos he's blown a lot of games for the ERA and whip that he has, which is surprisingly low. Phillips has been pretty good. Whitlock's coming back in 2 weeks. Diaz maybe by the end of the season. Walker Buehler maybe by the end of the season. Tyler Anderson bad. I mean, I guess it's not the worst rotation in the league. The lineup is bad. There's just nobody really here that, I mean, like I want to make a trade with Bryce. There's just nobody here that I like want. So.
And with all these trades, I know we talk trash about this and that, but I mean, really, he's got Diaz as a keeper next year, Buehler as a keeper next year. He's got, if Phillips keeps that same LA closer job at $3, keeper. Doval, we know, is a keeper. Mitch Keller right now would be a keeper. Brown, if he kept that up, would be a keeper. Indy is a keeper. Yoshida is a keeper. I mean, we're looking at 7, 8 guys that I just listed already, less than $8, $9. So I mean,
yeah,
they're not household names. They're not top 10 keeper values, but I mean, that's 7, 8 guys that I don't want to say are for sure keepers next year, but they're damn near. So he's turned it around. I mean, he's going to have 7, 8 guys next year at a total of $40. I mean, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, when I was trying to pull up that list, when I had, if you guys saw me kind of combing through these players here of guys for next year, I listed a few guys that come off the top of my head. You got your Dustin Mays, Santander's, let's see here, Luis Castillo, like I said, my Strider, Joe Ryan. I think Jimenez is still probably up there, but he's got to show me a little bit something, more something. Adolis Garcia, Shane McClanahan, Neil Cruz, maybe not Hunter Green anymore. When I'm talking about guys like the top contracts for 2023, those are the kind of, or 2024, those are the guys that kind of come to mind. So I don't think that Bryce has many of those guys, but maybe he's just got a lot of guys that are in like the 10 to 20th best range, where like he doesn't have like the guys that like everybody wants, the guys that everybody agrees are like, no, send me him. Like, the guys we joke about where it's just like, hey, when I say, hey, send Soto, and it's like, oh, send Spencer Strider. Like he doesn't have any of those guys, but he does have a lot of guys, as you mentioned, that will look like they will be assets in 2024. Edwin Diaz, Walker Buehler, maybe Evan Phillips, Doval, maybe Jason Adam, probably Mitch Keller, maybe Hunter Brown, Jonathan India, Miguel Vargas, a lot of maybe Tovar, maybe not, and maybe that's about it. And Tanaka, or not Tanaka, Yoshida. I mean, those guys are looking like they will be keepers the following year, but yeah, just not guys that you can necessarily build your team around, I would say.
I think Bryce has more keepers and solid keepers next year than Jordan does.
Yeah, it's possible. I think Jordan's players have better quality versus quantity. Is there anything more to be said, or you just want to move right on?
No, I mean, yeah, he's given up. Yeah.
Yeah, let's move
He's
on.
14.
I mean, I think Jordan, like if you look at who Jordan has, I like that he has Trevor Story for 6. I know he's going to be a keeper. Royce Lewis I like, but we don't know what he's going to be. Obviously Matt Mervis. And then he went out and got Nestor Cortez was the first move he made of the year, who's going to be a keeper for 3.
He's
pretty
shit,
confident that even though he's been pretty bad this year so far. I think he's still pretty solid. Mackenzie Gore, Justin Steele, and I don't think Springs is a keeper for 17. I kind of said that. Maybe Bryce is in a better position for next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he is. I mean, those 7-8 names I listed, I think are pretty decent keepers. Again, no superstars, but I mean, I look at Jordan's team and I think, yeah, you keep Kirk. Okay.
I don't think you don't keep Kirk for 6.
We'll see. Yeah, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see but even still, I mean, look at the rest of the offense. Kalenic, okay, if he keeps that up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a ton here. There's not still. That's why, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably neck and neck. I might even give the edge to Bryce. I think his keepers have more upside when it comes to Edwin Diaz and Walker Buehler and some of those guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually think Bryce had inherited more because he had the Acuñas and the Bogartses, but I think that Jordan did more with less and Bryce did less than more with a lot of their moves that they have this year. I don't think there's a whole lot more to be said with Jordan's team here. I mean, I think he's pretty dead in the water. I don't see much. The pitching is bad.
You think Estrada keeps that start going? Because if Estrada's
depends on who you ask. If you ask Jordan, he is, but no, it's hard to imagine really anybody on the Giants being everyday starters. So I don't know how often Estrada plays. Maybe if he's got 150 at bats, so I guess he is playing every day. He's one of the few guys that actually does play every day, which is promising. I mean, the stolen bases. I mean, if you're stealing that many bases now, I don't see why you wouldn't keep stealing that many bases. Although 3 caught stealings isn't a really good ratio. Maybe he does. They kind of saw that with Arozarena, where Arozarena got caught stealing too much, where they just don't have him steal as much because his efficiency is good. So maybe it's kind of starts to turn into that, but we'll see. I mean, it's not a terrible ratio. Maybe it keeps it up, maybe it doesn't. Henderson doesn't look like a keeper at 27. Volpe, if he continues,
if he's 2040, he's probably a keeper at that price.
2040, yes, but I don't know if he keeps playing this bad if he'll get enough at bats to be 2040.
I mean, but that's Bobby Witt, by the way, last year had about a 298 OBP right around there as a 20-30 player. So like people are saying like, oh, Volpe, look, I mean, dude's on pace for almost 80 runs scored, 20 home runs, and 40 steals. I mean, is he really doing that bad?
Yeah, not from a fantasy standpoint, no, but
no, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
something different. All right, so that was number 13 in our power rankings. Technically tied for 12. Other tied for 12 is going to be Davey Boy. Dave's team still has some flashy players. He's still got Max Scherzer. He's still got David Bednar, who's been great. He's got Christian Yelich, who's okay. Cedric Mullins, who's actually been really good this year. And obviously Fernando Tatis. So, I mean, he's still kind of got those superstar players. Well, I wouldn't call David Bednar a superstar, but I mean, Max Scherzer and Fernando Tatis, those guys have been pretty great. Cedric Mullins has been really good. So he's got more excitement, which is what he was going for this year. I know he's like, oh, I just don't want to trade Tatis because at least it gives me something to root for. Well, you're not wrong. I mean, it certainly does. But he's going to have to produce a lot more if Dave wants to make any kind of noise. I still don't see this team really going anywhere. Why does he have Jorge Soler on his bench with 9 home runs and 20 RBIs and a 323 on base percentage? That's
I
a
don't know.
little bit
I
of a
mean, the
that's
thing
tough.
about Dave's team is if you really look at the names, you're like, oh, that the names don't sound too bad. But we mentioned that pre-draft show. If this was what the 2018, 2017 team, yeah, this team would be killer. But
Yeah.
again, I'm gonna you might hear me say this a lot, but it is early. But Dave's also dead last in Roto right now. Dead last. I mean, dead last in Roto. And I know we can have a lot of changes right now that can happen with that, but I mean, the pitching just isn't there. Musgrove's been horrible.
It's impressive to be behind Jordan and Roto.
Yeah. I mean, Scherzer's been horrible. Musgrove's been horrible. And then you got Green with the high whip. You got Randy's Contreras, who started off great, who's horrible now. So, I mean, his pitching staff's a mess. And then you got a bunch of old names that are hitting. So I don't
Yep.
know. Dave's team's bad. It's not
Yep.
good.
Yeah, not great. Yeah, not a whole lot more to be said. Don't see this team going anywhere. It has enough names where it can beat just about anybody in head to head in any given week because Tatis can hit 5 home runs and Yelich can get hot and steal bases, and Musgrove and Scherzer can turn it on. T1 Walker's had good starts. Hunter Green can strike out 12 on any given day. So like he's gonna probably be pesky if he kind of stays put where he's at. Kyle Wright injury hurts him a little bit. But yeah, not a whole lot more to say about just a blah team, unfortunately. Sorry to disappoint you if you're hoping to hear more about your teams on those first 3. We have a tie for 10th place, 10th and 11th between Chris and Dex, 2 teams that I kind of expect to go in 2 different directions. Chris has been pretty quiet this year. We'll talk about his team first, sliding into the M's. He's still got a couple of his oh no, it isn't only has one. No, he's still got a couple Blue Jays. He's got his Bichette and Springer. Got Freddie Freeman. He's got a few names here. So those are some kind of name brand names. He's also got in the pitching staff led by Garrett Cole, and then some household names, Andrew Heaney, Lance Lynn, Chris Sale, who has looked resurgent today. I think that this team right now has a couple more sexy names than Dex does, which is why I gave him the edge over Dex, and you kind of flip that around. I think that Chris is going to be a little bit more likely to buy here in the next couple of weeks to try and see what he can do over the next month or so before he maybe hits the reset button. Maybe he tries to trade Bichette. Maybe this is the wild card team that where like he's the one that's going to be waiting in the wings for the Joe Ryans, the Spencer Striders, the Ellie De La Cruzes, and the of the world, who's painters of the world, where hey, we could be waiting in line to get some of those guys if he decides to sell Bichette and some of those guys. But I think he can hang on a little bit longer, especially with 6 teams making head to head. I don't think he's out of it yet. JD Martinez on the bench. I think he's still got some promise here, but he definitely needs some guys to get hot. He's got to fill in the gaps a little bit better than he has so far.
And the offense has been killing it. I mean, when you look at Roto perspective, he's got 13 points and runs, 11 home runs, 11 RBI, 13 on base. So really, the lineup is killing it. It's just the pitching. And when we talked about his pitching preseason, we talked about having guys like Peralta and Garrett Cole and Lance Lynn. Well, Lance Lynn's been horrible. Chris Sale's been horrible. Andrew Haney's been horrible. So this was a staff probably beginning season where you go, that's actually not awful. It could hold its own, but it's just not right now. I mean, he needs pitching. Urquidy's been out. He doesn't have much depth there. He's got tons of lineup guys, tons of guys on the bench there that just, but the pitching's been rough. The pitching's been rough because the lineup itself has actually been really, really solid so far.
Now he's getting JD Martinez back.
Yeah. So I definitely think Chris with the right
moves
could definitely
yard twice today too.
Yeah, I think Chris with the right moves could definitely compete. I know we have him 10th or 11th right now, but definitely not out of it. I think there's a big cluster of teams that are right in this kind of 6 to 10 range, which could easily be interchangeable.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Let's talk about Dex's team. Let's see here, dexgotyou.com. Has anybody visited that site yet? I don't know what's going on there. So he's kind of obviously hit the reset button. His team looks a lot different. He's definitely got plenty of speed. He's going to come for Chad in the speed category, I guess. Not a ton else going on. I mean, I guess he's got some interesting names: Bryce Harper, Rizzo with the power, Santander, Mateo, Luis Robert. I mean, the offense looks okay. Pitching staff could be okay.
Pretty good.
It's okay. I don't know. Maybe I don't give this team enough credit, but just the mentality he's had so far, if he's just going to keep selling, I don't know. I just don't get why he's sold Jordan Alvarez, and I don't get why he's sold some of the guys he has. But because, you look at this team, you're like, well, the pitching rotation, it's Logan Webb, Giolito, Stroman is not a bad start, not a great start. And then Dustin May, Barrios, Kopech, Jordan Romano is your closer. I mean, that's pretty solid. And then the lineup's got some interesting names between Robert,
Yeah.
Harper, Rizzo. Baez isn't great.
Well,
Jeringer,
that's the killer for me because the killer for me is he could have a core on offense of, I mean, Rizzo hitting in New York. I mean, the on base percentage, the home runs. I mean, when you talk about a core of Rizzo, Harper, Vlad, and Alvarez, that would have been, I mean, would that not have been among the best in the league?
yeah, Monk, yeah.
I mean, and that's what's tough. And I think that's where we kind of sit back and we're like, man, those trades, we'll see how they work out. No doubt about it. And again, I don't think they were awful. I think he's definitely getting some keep. Nico Horner's on his IL right now. And Nico
Yeah, I was
Horner
gonna
right
say
now,
Nico Horner and Giancarlo Stanton both on his IR as well.
right. And Nico Horner's a dollar. And I know I've always said he's not, I don't think he's worth a $15-20 fantasy player because he's not going to hit those home runs. But if you told me he kept that pace up times four, 100 runs scored, 40 stolen bases with a good OB. Yeah, at a dollar, that's an amazing price. So I don't know. It's tough because I think Dexter's team's really not bad. And even though he kind of seems like he's selling, he's honestly got guys that's going to kind of keep him competing. And his head-to-head record right now is 28-20. Again, we're early, but he's still hanging around. And I think Barrios kind of will start pitching a little bit better. Who knows about Kopech? We'll see about that. But I still don't hate his team.
I hope he knows that he's only like what? I hope he knows he's only 5 games back of having a first round bye, and he's currently in the head-to-head playoffs right now, as he's kind of selling the farm for some of these, Jordan Lawlers and other types. And I hope
We're
he's
talking about guys like
one
Jose Abreu
of
and Tim
those.
Anderson on his bench.
Yeah, those guys can kind of turn it on. They've been a little slow so far.
Yeah. So I
Uh,
mean, team's better than I think we give it credit for sometimes. But yes, the trades can be a little head scratching.
yeah. Next, this this is where the parity really comes into play, because before I talk about this next team, like, this is a team that is pretty solid this year, who is led by a really good pitching staff. The offense isn't ideal, but there's still names in the offense that you like. And like, I don't think this team deserves to be ninth, but there's nobody I would really put behind them of the people that are above him, and that's Tyler. Tyler's made some really good moves this year. The offense has guys. It has Arozarena, Pete Alonso, Nolan Arenado, and not a lot else after that. And Will Smith at catcher is one of the kind of top catchers in the league. The pitching staff is really good. Logan Gilbert, Sonny Gray, Urias, Felix Bautista. Obviously the Max Fried injury hurt him a little bit. So it's not as deep as it was, and trading Framber Valdez hurt him as well, just to lose Fried. So maybe that's kind of why he ends up this low, is that maybe the pitching wasn't as good with losing Fried and trading Framber Valdez. And I think he gave up Ranger Suarez too, just in a trade. So pitching's looking a little thin, a little bit more thin now than it was. Offense isn't great, even though it has some very good players. So it just kind of ends up in ninth, even though Tyler's teams are playing better than they have in the last few years. What do you see? What stands out to you about Tyler's team?
Streaky, right? Because I remember hearing all about Brandon Lowe those first few weeks of the season. You
Yeah.
heard a lot about Brandon Lowe those first few weeks of the season.
Yep.
And now, holy
Let's see what
shit.
he's done the last 30 days.
Oh my God. Yeah, you love those. Show those numbers. Tyler would
3
love to hear that.
homers, 216 on base percentage, 1 steal, 0 homers in the last 2 weeks, 2 RBIs, 1 run scored, and 2 hits. 2 hits in the last 2 weeks for Brandon Lowe. That's
And
his
it's the
MO,
same thing
though.
kind
He
of with
is a streaky hitter. That is his MO.
right. And it's, I mean, you could argue the same with Arenado right now, off to
Yep.
a slow start. And you really look at some of these guys, and it's not even like they're doing all that bad. Like even a guy like Alonso, 13 home runs, that's good. Will Smith on pace for 24 and 80 with a 417 OBP,
From a
that's
catcher,
good.
you take it.
So weirdly enough, though, it's yeah, exactly. And the pitching, I think you're right. I think he might have given up on those guys. Obviously, you can't predict injuries. You don't know what's going to happen. He went from having so much pitching to now looking at it like, oh, you are one more injury, or you are one more guy falling off the wagon from having a very below average pitching staff. I mean, that's just kind of how it is right now. So I think this team would look a lot better if, almost weirdly, if the Valdez or Rosarena got flopped around, because I think his offense is enough to carry him. Well, I think I'd feel safer with Valdez on this team. And I think that's kind of where it kind of hurts a little bit. But is it crazy to say I'd maybe still, with the injuries and everything piling on, I might take Dexter's team over this right now? I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, you might be right. I think Dex with the Fried injury, I think Dex's pitching might be a little bit better.
Yeah.
And the offense, I think, is kind of tick for tat.
Yes.
I think that they both have about 3 or 4 guys that are good, and about 7 guys that are blah and could be the difference makers. In a toss up, Justin, who you got between Dex's team, what you see from his roster, and Tyler's team from his roster? Whose team do you like better going forward?
I think I would still go Tyler. I think Tyler still has a better pitching staff, like Eric's kind of saying. But again, like if one guy goes down, like the whole face of that team looks completely different. If Julio Urias goes down tomorrow, it's like, oof, I don't know how I feel about this team.
You could say that about just about anybody, though, right?
Yeah,
Not
probably.
Not when he had the depth that he had. Not
Yeah.
when I mean, like you said, he had Urias, he had Fried, he had Valdez, he had Gilbert, like he had a lot of names, and that's what happens when you make. I mean, it goes back to your point earlier when you make so many deals early. It is a long season. Oh crap! I don't have that pitching I had 2 months ago. I mean, I'm feeling it right now.
I still think I like his offense better. I think there's more names. Obviously, with Rizzo and Harper on Dex's team, those are 2 of the guys that I like the most in the league, anyways. But I still
very
think
likable guys.
Huh?
Very likable guys, Rizzo and Harper.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
I think one day we all have to have a dog named Rizzo at some point.
Heck yeah.
All right. So moving on from number 8 to another team that probably doesn't deserve to be in the 8th spot. And this might surprise some people. Phil, Special K down in the 8th spot. His team isn't bad. He's not performing bad. He's in 4th place in Roto. In head-to-head, he is in 6th place. There's nothing I dislike about Phil's team. I just like some other teams better. I look at this and I go, okay, he's got some guys like, okay, CJ Cron's underperforming, and Whit Merrifield and Tyler Stevenson. I don't really like that. And Orlando Arcia, not great. Brandon Drury's been decent, but a 264 on base percentage. And Hunter Renfroe, we kind of know what he is. And Brandon Nimmo is okay. Good, on base percentage guy. We knew what Brandon Nimmo is, but he doesn't really provide a whole lot else outside of that. Max Kepler in his lineup, doesn't really have the reinforcements coming. It's not like he's got a bunch of guys that are hurt. Judge is still doing his thing, albeit not on the 50 home run pace that he was last year. Austin Riley, not on the pace that he needs to be on. A little bit of a disappointing slow start there. And Ohtani would be his other big hitter, but he's got him in the pitching rotation because his pitching needs it. Blake Snell has been terrible. He's got a 1.53 whip. He's basically been unstartable. He's trying to find a home for Alexis Diaz because he's on his bench. He's got these 3 closers here. And he's picking up guys from the waiver wire, and they're going right in his pitching rotation, like Yuri Perez, Bryce Elder, even Merrill Kelly, who he drafted Merrill Kelly, but he's Merrill Kelly. So, I mean, It's not that this team's bad. He's right where he needs to be to kind of strike, but I don't know if this team has the juice this year to kind of get it to the finish line. I know he's trying to swing some deals and wheel and deal and get involved, but he doesn't really have the assets that guys are looking for right now either to really swing some of those big moves that he's kind of done in the past. So I'm not really sure the direction this team needs to go, but what do you think, Eric?
The Rodon thing's killing him right now. And yeah. I mean, Ohtani is great. So I hate to say that like having to put Ohtani in your rotation is a bad thing because he's his best pitcher.
He actually has been probably a better pitcher than a hitter this year.
Right. But it's one of those things too, especially, and fantasy wise, if you could pick one or the other, you're just going to get a little bit more value out of Ohtani hitting just because he's playing every day. So like theoretically in a perfect world, yes, you'd rather have Ohtani in your lineup based on what he brings. So the fact that he has to put him in there in the rotation, if Elder wasn't doing what he was doing right now, Phil would be in a hell of a lot of trouble because Nola's not doing that great. We know Clase is not a strikeout guy, still one of the best closers in baseball, but 20 innings, 12 Ks. I mean, that's not really getting it done.
Yeah.
So the fact that Robert,
surprisingly, like not a high whip, but a high whip for what you'd expect out of an elite closer.
Yeah, exactly.
0.08.
I mean, giving up a batter in inning, that would. Yeah, exactly. Robertson's been absolutely elite at 38 years old. Does he keep that up over a whole calendar season? I don't know. That's tough. That's really tough to say. So, right. So my thing is, I feel like Phil's pitching is almost hanging by a thread right now, and it's just winning the snap. And I think even despite his good start, despite his roto start, all these things, I think the offense is doing good, even with some underperformers. It's not, we said this pre-draft or after the draft, this is not the offense of last year that he had. It's not as good. And his pitching seems worse than last year's team. So I
Yeah.
don't really know what happened the last 12 months to like have that happen. But I feel like it's almost like I liked Phil's team better last year. I think it was better assembled last year. The pitching was there last year. And it just kind of, it's like, it's just not as good all around. It's not a bad team, like you said.
Yeah.
I still think he's going to compete in the playoffs all year or compete for a spot. But you're right. He had to pick up Yuri Perez. He had to pick up, Bryce Elder. And he's got to throw Tani in the rotation. So he's really kind of just, it almost seems like hanging on.
Yep. Yeah, I would have to agree there. So, we'll kind of see. I'm not going to sleep on him. I'm not going to call him out. I'm not going to call him dead in the water. We've seen him have a lot of success in the past. We know it can be done. He's going to be active. He's going to make moves, free agents and trades. So, the job isn't finished for him yet. We'll kind of see how it goes, and we'll kind of see his team's going to look different, I would assume, in 2 months from now than it looks right now. And
Yep.
He might be a team that could go one way or the other. I mean, I could see him selling at the deadline. I could see Chris selling at the deadline. I could see them both buying. I could see them swinging a big deal going one way or the other. I could see Ohtani going to Chris. I could see Bichette going to Phil, in any one of those deals. And two wild card teams that could really kind of, go really swing the balance of the league in one way or the other. Coming in at number 7, my biggest faller, alluded to it earlier in the year, which is Crimmy's team. Now, we both have Crimmy 6, which puts him as an aggregate of 7. I'll let you start on Crimmy because I kind of have a take on Crim's team.
Yeah, Crim's team, like we talked, we went over the injuries, the trades, we went over this and that. I think overall, when you're looking at a core of Acuna, Ramirez, and Vlad,
yeah,
that's gonna carry you pretty far. As long as they're healthy, as long as you're playing 145, 150 games. I don't want to say you can completely forget about the rest of the offense, but Acuna is, as much as we talked about that trade earlier, the dude's on pace. He's on pace for 60 steals. He's on pace for 140 runs. I mean, literally almost 140 runs scored. I mean, that's insane. So again, Vlad, Jose Ramirez, and Acuna, as long as they stay healthy, the magic words, they will. That's going to carry Crim's offense pretty far. But the pitching is really the question mark here, which is why I think he made that move for Gausman, because Woodruff was out. He felt like he couldn't wait too long. His team's already not performing great right now, head-to-head wise, roto wise. He's one of the bottom teams. He finally got Verlander back. Hader's been amazing as advertised. Manoah's not been the pitcher he was last year. So Eflin, I mean, we got a lot of guys in here where stuff's changed up. France has 11 innings. Verlander's got 12 innings. And I don't see a ton of depth in the bullpen, or in the bullpen, but the bench there outside of Descalfani. So I don't know. It's one of those things where like that offense is going to be carried by those superstars, and that pitching's really got to be carried by those superstars. Manoah, Gausman, Verlander, and then those three, the Acuna, Vlad, and Jose Ramirez. I mean, when you look at those 6 names, that could take you far, but it's also middled with a lot of ugh.
Yeah. I think this could be a pretty good rotation, but I think a lot has to go right. I mean, if Zach Eflin is who I said he was earlier, if he's just going to be a sub-3 ERA, 1.0 whip kind of guy, if JP France is just another Astros pitching prodigy, Kevin Gausman, an ace, Manoah's got to find it. I think that's kind of the difference maker, but we know what Verlander's going to do. We know what Gausman's going to do. Josh Hader may be the best closer in the game. Good guy to build around. And Bailey Ober's been really solid. I mean, so far, this rotation has flashed the upside of what it could be. But at the same time, look at the stellar numbers that this rotation has outside of Alek Manoah. But the numbers that this rotation has so far, it's definitely, there's some negative regression coming its way. But for it to look as good as it does on paper right now, and for Crim to still be in 13th, kind of says something. There's like still some negative regression coming, and he's still only in 13th. Is like, okay, well, where does this actually get better? Is a little bit of a head scratcher. But I mean, you hit the nail on the head of what I was going to say. I mean, whenever you start your roster with Guerrero, Acuna, and Ramirez, I mean, it's obviously probably about as good a start as anybody can do. I think the best trio of offensive players in the entire league. The pitching staff has upside, but I think there's also just too many guys here that just don't do enough for fantasy in this lineup. Wilson Contreras has been disappointing, but I don't expect a lot fantasy wise from Ezekiel Duran, Adam Frazier, Brian Anderson, Yohan Moncada. Like those guys aren't really fantasy guys that I want in my lineup. Maybe like okay bench guys, but they're not even guys that are deserving a really roster spot. Paredes has really slowed down since his hot start, and Rooker, he's out of lineup today. Brent Rooker has 11 home runs in 114 at bats, and he is on base nearly every other at bat. He has a 424 on base percentage, 11 home runs, and only 19 runs scored. Like, how is that mathematically possible? Where he is a 424, he's always on base, has 11 home runs and only 19 runs scored. That's the epitome on how bad Oakland is as a team. And I don't think Rooker continues this nobody out of nowhere. He's the next Frank Schwindel at 28 years old. Or no, he's 28 years old. Where I just don't think that that's sustainable. That's what Brent Rooker is going to be. I don't think he's going to finish the year with 40 home runs like he's on track to be. So I just think there's too many gaps here for Crimmy to really to reach the finish line of what I believe he can. But I mean, there's enough pitching upside here, and obviously enough upside with those three players that he's going to make noise. But I just think there's too many holes here for him to be higher in the power ranking, especially with Jose Miranda being out of the minors.
And I'll say this about Crim's team too before we move on to the next one. He's and we know Crim's Mr. Trade. He likes making trades. I almost see him at a point, not where he can't make trades. I mean, you can always trade MLB. I get that, but like, where could you really say, oh, he can improve his team? Like, unless he trades one of those superstars for like 2 quality pitchers or something. Like, it's tough to envision like where Crim's team gets better. It's almost like you have to just kind of like hope the superstars carry you. I mean, that's kind of like that's all you really got. There's not a whole
3 superstars carry you if you still have Adam Frazier in your lineup, if you still have Ryan Anderson and Moncada in your lineup. I mean, it's a law of averages, just kind of all averages out to being blocked.
He's got like those, I call them those 15 home runs, 60 RBI, 330 OBP guys. Like they are literally like your 1 WAR, 8-9 guys in the order kind of guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and then those guys don't help your counting stats either. I don't anticipate Adam Frazier, who's got a career high of 50 RBIs. Oh no, he had 53 RBIs, career high in 2017 with Pittsburgh. Career high in runs scored of 83. Like I don't envision him, all of a sudden just contributing in any of those categories. That's, as you said, they're your 7, 8, 9 hitters on typically bad teams. So I don't foresee them really helping you in a whole lot of categories. They're just not guys you want in your lineup. If those kind of guys are in your lineup, you're not going to be a top 3 team in the league. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just all the trades that have been made and Crimmy kind of losing all of his depth here and maybe some injuries here and there. But yeah, I mean, I like this team a lot more. I thought this team was a little bit more complete a month ago than it is right now. We have a tie for 5th place, for 5th and 6th place between 2 teams that we could not feel more different about. Holy cow. So these teams are our 5th place teams in our aggregate. How did these teams end up in 5th place? I have one team in 1st place where Eric has him in 8th place. And Eric has that same exact formation, but he has the 8th place team in 1st place, and I have them in 8th. I don't know how this happened, but I have Jay as the 1st place team in my power rankings and Peter as my 8th place team. And Eric has Peter as his 1st place team and Jay is his 8th place team. I cannot believe the difference in opinions on it. Who do you want to start with, Eric?
Dude, I don't know. I'm curious. I'm gonna be curious to hear what you got to say about Jay.
All right, we'll start there. Jay has made several trades.
So again, this is your number 1 team right now, right? Your number one team.
My number 1 team right now. The worst player in Jay's lineup right now is Jorge Polanco. And I think that's saying something. And he could easily put Winker or McNeil in there. His team from top to bottom, he's got a top 3 catcher, and every other position is solid. From top to bottom, he has a very solid lineup. I don't see any gaps here in guys that don't belong in a lineup. Trent Grisham may be leaving a little bit to be desired out there. Maybe he could swap a Trent Grisham, but all these guys deserve to be, or like 12 out of 12 teams, they are in people's lineups. I don't see a single really gap here in the kind of guys that he has there. Jorge Polanco is probably the worst. Trent Grisham leaves a little bit to be desired there, but he also has Jesse Winker and Jeff McNeil, and maybe Christian Encarnacion Strand gets called up at some point. The rotation has been great, borderline incredible. Maybe they've overperformed, but guys like Clayton Kershaw, you know what you're getting there. Eovaldi, been really good. Alex Cobb, been really good. Yu Darvish, been really good. Jordan Montgomery, I wish he didn't make the Jordan Montgomery trade, but I'm kind of glad he did because I'm a little afraid of this team. And he's got 2 top 8 closers in Kunley Jansen and Ryan Presley. Nick Lodolo, Louis Varland, and Matthew Liberatore offer some upside on his bench, maybe even Taj Bradley as well. He's kind of going the prospect route there. I think this is the single most complete team. This team has everything. It has a little bit of speed. Maybe it needs a little bit more. It has power. It has pop. It has pitching. It doesn't have any standout. Like there's nothing that this team is great as, but it is good everywhere from top to bottom. And I think it's our most complete team we have in the league.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. This is where again I'm gonna say I think we're reacting way too early. I think if you put this team next to Peter's team, I still don't. I just don't even think it's really still all that close. I mean, I think we're just overreacting to certain situations. Again,
Well,
you have all
Peter is in what place in Roto, and Jay was.
I get it, but again, that's just me saying it's May. I mean, it's May. I mean, here's my thing. This is what I'll say about Jay's team.
Peter has like 4 guys in his lineup that don't belong in anybody's lineup. They don't like Jordan has the guys in it better in his rotation than like Jordan's like his fourth outfielder is better than Peter's fourth outfield.
Now, granted, I have Jay as the 8th team, so that means I still think he's like competing for playoffs, could make it all right, all that stuff. But my thing is Alex Cobb and Nathan Eovaldi. If they keep doing what they're doing, or they even keep doing 80% of what they're doing, then he'll be fine. But like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm in love with that rotation. Like, I'm not. Clayton Kershaw, like you said, yes, dynamite when he pitches. When they get around playoff time, he gets capped at 140, 150 innings. Darvish just signed a new extension. Again, if they're in the playoffs, is he going to get 200 innings on the year? Who knows? I trust those two, and they're 33 and 30, they're 36, 35 years old. But then you're trusting 2 guys that have really never done it in their careers at this level, Eovaldi and Cobb. Now, Cobb's been amazing. You could argue he'd be one of the all-star game players right now. But again, that's a 35-year-old that just hasn't done it before. I mean, like, he's just not done this ever in his life. So this is my hold on, hold up the flag, beep, 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 it's May. Kenley Jansen has a 4.2 ERA with a 1.6 whip. That's not good. That's not. He's getting saves. Okay, yeah, good. Ryan Presley has a 3.8 ERA. He's got 6 saves. I think he's blown a few already too. That's not great. That's why I was very, very excited to talk about this, because to see the differences between teams, between Peter and Jay, and you having Jay at number 1, I mean, I like Jay's offense. I think it's one of the better offenses in the league. I'm not going to disagree with you there. But wow, I just think that is just way too early to sit there and just drop Peter like that and to just crown Jay number 1 right now. I just don't trust the pitching throughout the year. I mean, literally, he does not have a pitcher. His youngest pitcher's 30, who's Montgomery. Okay, we really love everyone else is 35, 36 years old, dude.
Yeah, but nothing wrong with age when you're a pitcher. I mean, Justin Verlander and Charlie Morton and Max Scherzer and all those guys are proving that.
Oh yeah, Verlander and Scherzer, they've pitched great this year.
That age, Verlander's been fine.
Oh yeah, great. Those 11 innings have been really dynamite.
Okay, he just got back from injury. What do you expect? He's been great in the
because why is he injured?
Did he win Cy Young last year?
Because
Did he
he's
win Cy Young last year?
No, and I get that, but we're talking about Verlander and Alex Cobb.
Okay.
Like, there's a
Alex
difference.
Cobb had a 3.7 ERA the last 2 years.
I think I'm be honest,
dude. Sub-4 ERA the last 2 years.
I'm not saying Jay's team's bad, but I think you are jumping the gun on some of these early season results.
This is a much more complete team.
Yes,
Peter's team.
Peter's team, and let's transition to it. Let's transition to it. Okay.
Peter
let's look at
has a guy by the name of Ryan Noda in his out. Who the fuck is Ryan Noda? That's in his outfield. I never heard of that guy.
But dude, look at this though. Okay, look at this. Julio Rodriguez, Adolis Garcia, and Kyle Tucker.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, then you got Luis Urias, Gleyber Manny Machado is off to an awful start right now. Do we really think Manny Machado is going to stay with a 280 OBP?
Fuck Manny Machado.
But I mean, that's
His team
fine.
is
Hold
underperformed.
on.
He
Hold on.
also has Luis
hold on.
Arias in his lineup.
Here's another one. Do you think Trey Turner's going to stay with a 300? I mean, Peter's team's underperforming, but Peter's team's underperforming. But these are guys: Manny Machado, Trey Turner. We're talking Kyle Tucker.
Look at his rotation. Paul Sewald, you just said he's not going to have the job. He's going to have no closer in a month. When freaking Paul,
but he does have the job right now, and he's probably third in the league in saves right now. So like, that's just I was wrong on that. I mean,
Luzardo's got a 1.4 ERA. Dylan or a 1.4 WHIP. Dylan Cease has a 1.44 WHIP.
So you're telling me,
Cabrera has a 1.6 WHIP. He's got Johnny Burrito. Johnny fucking Burrito is in his rotation right now. Like, there's
you're telling me
good players on this team, on top of the guys that aren't performing.
I just disagree, man. I
You're
just
disagree.
by
you this is your number one team going into the season or whatever it was, and being like, this team can't fail because it's got too many players, and he makes the same mistake every year of not having depth. And his lack of depth is the reason why he has Ryan fucking Noda in his lineup, and Joey Meneses and Brett Beatty, who hasn't done anything, and Edward Cabrera and Johnny Brito, instead of having actual MLB players, not made up backyard baseball names.
But here's another thing. Sewald's outperforming both of his closers. Sewald is. Hendricks is coming back relatively soon. Tristan McKenzie comes back in a week or 2 weeks, sorry. So if you're telling me Burns, McClanahan, and McKenzie, that is better than Cobb, Darvish, and Kershaw. It is. Like that.
I'm
it
still
is.
Out on
So
I think McKenzie way over.
We are so
actually this last year.
So you're really you would rather put stock in 35-year-old Alex Cobb, really?
Yeah, I think that Alex Cobb.
I mean that's my point. I'm
Tristan McKenzie.
Wow. All right. Well, I mean, again, that's where we just disagree. It's May 13th, man. I don't know. I would still easily again with the age, with the inning counts, everything.
There's no way that this could be the number one team in the league right now.
It doesn't need to be.
That's what you said. You have a number one in your power rankings.
See, my thing with power rankings. See, and that's my thing with power rankings is I'm still looking at it like I did my preseason predictions. I'm not just going to be like, oh, this team started off this good, so I'm just going to completely just drop. Like I still have faith in the teams that I had faith in to begin the year. I'm not just going to throw up the white flag. It's not me just like sticking to the ground and be like, I'm holding a hard point. Peter's team is still really fucking good, dude. There's a reason he had 10 top 50 players on his team. I think you are completely overlooking his team right now. And that's why I think we have it so different. It's May 13th. We've seen this happen time and time again. It happened to me every year. Like Peter's team is still really damn good. That's why I have him as the best team. I mean, that pitching staff, when you list those three, that is better than Darvish, Cobb, and Kershaw. It is. It just is. I don't know.
It could be. But I also don't think that I don't think that this. My bold take at the start of the year that this is not a top 5 rotation in the league, and it has been true so far.
Yeah. I think
that Tyler, before he traded Framber Valdez, had a better rotation. I think that Justin has a better rotation right now. I think that Phil's rotation might be borderline. I think that my rotation's better. I think that a lot of teams' rotations are better than this, and the lineup has vastly underperformed, and it has fucking nobodies in 4 different spots. And Luis Arias needs to be addressed because Luis Arias is a starting first baseman, and he is a goddamn liability. I don't care that he has a .435 on base percentage. He has 1 home run, 1 steal, and 14 RBIs and 14 runs scored. That's over 130 at bats. If you multiply that by 4, that is a 4 home run, or we multiply it by 5. I don't care. 5 home run, 70 RBI, 70 runs scored, 5 stolen base season. That is not being productive from your fucking first baseman. No. And that's the starting first baseman. You compile that with Ryan Noda, Brett Beatty, and Joey Meneses in his lineup, and that is terrible. That's not being productive. I don't care how many top 50 guys you have. If those are the kind of guys you have in your lineup, then you're not going to win the league. And we found that because that's why he is in 8th place right now in Rotas, because he's got a bunch of nobodies in his lineup, and that's hurting him. And he's been too busy to make any trades, even though he probably needs to. He probably needs to make a trade more than anybody right now.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that is the crux we've been having with him the last few years, is that he he makes moves too late, and then I mean, who knows? Like I said, in a month from now, it could be completely different. I really think that the next show we do, whether it's mid-June, either later June, that's when you can really start saying, yeah, okay, now it's time to really, but I'd give it another month. We'll see.
And we'll see. All right. So that covers Jay. That covers Peter, which moves on to our 4th place team. I have this team 3rd. You have this team 5th. Overdue to talk about Justin. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
The Wahoo Maniacs. Justin's team looking like one of our most complete teams in the league. His pitching's been solid. He's still looking for an ace, he says. But man, it'd be hard pressed to find many rotations better than Chris Bassett, Luis Castillo. Looks like Tony Gonsolin's back to his 2022 form. He's been pitching great so far in his 14 innings, 1.93 ERA, 1.07 WHIP. Pablo Lopez has been great. Josiah Gray has been great. Framber Valdez, Ben Elites. And Iglesias finally just came back. Hasn't got a lot of innings in him yet, but he's getting a closer back for Atlanta. So he's going with the one closer approach because Daniel Bard can't get over his anxiety. So he needs to get his blankie in order before he takes the mound again in the closer role. So therefore, I really like this rotation. You weren't very fond of this rotation. Granted, it didn't have what's Framber Valdez before, but he's added to it. I think the rotation's really solid in the lineup, top to bottom. Next month he's overperformed. Juan Soto's underperformed, and a lot of guys that have overperformed what we expect them to do. I don't expect Max Muncy to stay on a 50 home run pace. I don't expect Joey Gallo to kind of continue the pace that he's on and finish with maybe 30 home runs, although he has. He's proven he can do it. Roddy Tell has gotten off to a good start of the year. He's got reinforcements. Christopher Morale coming in with reinforcements. He even got McCutcheon. McCutcheon's been solid. He'd be starting in Peter's outfield easily. He's got some depth. He's got some pitching depth too. He's got a lot of players I like. I think this team's solid top to bottom. I'm proud of my boy. You're my boy, Blue.
Yeah, the lineup is really good. I mean, it is. There's no doubt about it.
You say the lineup's really good. The pitching staff's elite
right now. Yeah, right now it is. Yep. No, I think the lineup's really good. I like what he's got going on. I do think you are right. Are we going to see these paces throughout a 162 game season? Probably not, because that's, like you said, that's a 150 or a 50 home run pace for Muncy. That's 140 RBIs for Simeon. That's it's a lot of numbers. So I do think that we're going to see a little bit of regression come from that. I mean, Sean Murphy's not going to hit 36 home runs as catcher. I don't know if has he ever hit 20? I don't know. He's off to a damn good start. Probably best catcher in baseball right now, no doubt about it. So
17 and 18.
You said he did it in 2018?
No, he's hit 17 home runs and 18 home runs.
Okay, yeah. So like I said, that start in 119 at bats, that is unheard of from Sean Murphy. Maybe he keeps it up, maybe he doesn't. So I think Justin's team is definitely proving itself right now. But the thing is, he bet on a lot of pitchers that have proven it and then kind of been very hit or miss. Luis Castillo has been one of those guys that has been an ace some years, and then some years he's been a very average pitcher. Pablo Lopez, a lot of people fell in love with him in 2021, and then 2022 didn't, a little bit down. We kind of talked about in the pre-draft show. We're like, all right, what version of Pablo Lopez are we going to get? He bid on some of these guys that were kind of like a take a shot and hopefully
innings.
Right, and hoping that they're more. Well, which one are we talking about?
Pablo Lopez, 62 strikeouts, 49 innings.
Yeah, exactly. So these are some guys that I think are, again, overperforming a little bit than what they've done in the past. Chris Bassett has done great. I think that's about what we can expect from him so far. My thing is, I do think that we're going to see the team as a whole kind of regress a little bit, because I do think all these guys are off to super duper hot starts that just aren't feasible over 160 games. And I think we're going to see Lopez and guys like that kind of go back to where they were. But you are right. I was wrong on this team to start. This is the team that has jumped up the most in my rankings. I think even you might have been surprised that my rankings really didn't shift a whole lot from preseason. I mean, they really didn't. A couple movements here or there. Justin was the one that jumped up the most. He went up from 11 to 6. I don't think it's top 2-3 team right now, because again, I do think there's going to be some of that regression, but I definitely think this is a playoff team. It's a really good
team. Put it
team.
off the table at Max Muncy will hit 40 home runs. So he's got 3 different 35 home run seasons. So it's not like him hitting 12 home runs in the first 2 months, something that's like unheard of.
No, not at all. But it's also one of those, again, going back to the kind of the same comment I made about the pitching. He also bet on Muncy as like a bounce back guy because Muncy, if I'm not mistaken, was pretty fucking awful last year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. So I mean, he bid on a lot of these guys that just kind of bounce back guys really all around that have bounced back. I mean, almost all of them.
Yep. Would you trade Max Muncy for Ronald Acuna right now, Justin?
If it was on the table,
I think
maybe.
you have to, right?
I mean, because like that's the kind of
I need
like,
the
I mean, that's
steals.
kind of
I need the
player.
steals, man. Like I think I have 3 roto points and steals right now, and I think I've had like 9 steals this week, but I don't know, man. Ronald Acuna
Would a $13 Max Muncy be the best asset on Bryce's team for 2024?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Like, I don't know. That's just kind of the deal that I'm talking about, where it's just like it's
Should've
an
seen how much more was
offensive upgrade
included with
for a better contract for a
But
guy.
my thing is like, is Yoshida and Muncy even 3 months from now? Again, if Yoshida keeps that 25-25 pace,
Yeah.
if Muncy keeps a 50 home run pace, which we all just said is not going to happen, or we all don't think it's going to happen. So, and he's $12 more expensive. Is it really going to be that much of a difference? We'll see in 3 months. I don't know.
All right. Number 3, now that we are 2 hours and 15 minutes in, number 3 in our power rankings, I guess it's just going to be the host time now. Eric, to you, Eric, what do you like about your team this year?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I I really liked my team the whole time. I have these injuries have obviously been daggers and it sucks, but I mean that's just I mean what do you do about it? There's nothing you can do. If I didn't have those injuries, I went from not desperate for pitching, but pretty much looking for another ace to pair with Bieber, almost all pre-draft, post-draft, everything.
That's funny that you called
really,
Bieber an ace. That's hilarious.
Well, I mean a 2.61 ERA, it's one of the best in the league, right?
Yeah, the strikeout rate that's closer to Cal Quantrill than it is an ace.
But again, do teams care if they're with a 2.61 ERA? I mean, that you just gotta look. That's elite. That's a great ERA. I don't know what
Cal Quantrill numbers.
I guess. I mean, Cal Quantrill's not pitching, but overall, I really like my team. Like I said, I've had the injuries, which have really sucked, but I even think I have the depth still even to kind of hold that down with Severino coming back. Mason Miller's been pretty good for the A's. Rogers, we'll see what happens there. Had a couple good starts, a couple bad ones, but my roto wise, my offense has not been good. And I can sit here and say I could be dead wrong, and then I'll just have to reset next year. But I am firmly confident in my offense being fine. Like I have Bobby Witt, Correa, Betts, Reynolds, Trout, Bogarts, Suzuki, Adley. Like I can sit here with 100% confidence and maybe look like an idiot 4 months ago when my offense is trash. But I have zero concern, which is again why I think we're 6 weeks in and we're overblowing stuff a little bit for some teams. You've jumped me up in the rankings, and my offense has been trash, and my pitching's been good. So I'm not worried about my offense at all. I literally have zero concerns.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at some of the moves that you've made, you know, at acquiring Xander Bogaerts and, you know, some of the way the pitching's looked, maybe I'm a little too high. I mean, I had Justin ahead of you. I put you ahead of me just to be a little humble. But I don't know. I don't really love the pitching rotation. Your 2 relievers don't really get a ton of opportunities. Chafin and Puck. They're on 2 pretty bad teams that don't really win a lot of close games. And they're not really great number wise so far. 1.3 whip and a 1.2 whip. So the relievers are a little bit shaky. Sandoval is kind of what we expected him to be, where he's a bad whip and a decent ERA and under strikeout an inning, kind of like we expected. Grayson Rodriguez has been a massive disappointment. Eduardo Rodriguez has been a huge overachiever. A pleasant surprise. Maybe he has a career year. I don't think his career year is a 1.57 ERA, but maybe he has a career year. Kirby, I like a lot. Bieber, I just don't think that he's a ace level pitcher anymore. I mean, if he continues a 2.6 ERA and a 1.1 whip, you'd like that, but whip is a little high. Strikeouts are really low. And I just think with all the velocity downticks he's had, and I mean, velocity's down again this year, even lower than it was last year. And the stuff just not looking great. I just think that it's just not, I think he's just kind of already on the downturn, even at 27. It's just, I think a velocity dip at age 27, and for him, it's just unheard of. I mean, but a lot of it under your control. I mean, this rotation, if you move Sandoval and Grayson Rodriguez to the bench and swap in Rasmussen and Springs, and looks a lot different. Then you got Severino waiting in the wings. So, I mean, hopefully that's going to be some reinforcements. You swap out one of those guys and I mean, I think Severino, when he's been on the mound, he's been pretty solid. Then the lineup, top to bottom, I mean, no complaints here. Casey Schmidt, you're going to kind of take the flyer on him. Even if you didn't want Casey Schmidt, you still got a guy like Bryson Stott or Brendan Donovan or one of those guys that you can kind of swap in there. Pretty good lineup, top to bottom. I don't really know if Emmanuel Valdez is really solid. I don't really know if Josh Naylor's that solid, even though he's got the RBI numbers. Really bad on base percentage. You want a few little more power from your first base, and only 9 runs scored, which is really alarming. So, I mean, there's a few gaps here. It's not a complete team, but I mean, when you have injuries like that, what can you really do? You got Altuve.
I got Altuve,
yeah. You got out. So you just need Valdez to hold down the fort for like another week. Then you got Altuve. So, hopefully your reinforcements between Miller and Severino and Altuve can kind of bump you up there. So I think you've kind of built up a core here. You're going to look like you're going to be the second half team once again when you get your reinforcements, hopefully. And as you've kind of been so far the last 2 seasons, but not a
and I've loved
right now.
I know the stat sheet shows Grayson Rodriguez hasn't been good, but I watched almost all of his starts. I'm a big Grayson Rodriguez fan, and he's had some very elite performances. So I have no doubt in my mind. Like you've always said, it takes a little bit longer for pitchers, especially young pitchers, to really get there. A lot of times it's easier for positional players to get there and go. But the fact that he's had those elite starts and has gone out there and dominated, he needs to be my strikeout guy, because I don't really have like a huge strikeout per 9 guy. I mean, Kirby's not that. You even said Bieber's not that. Rodriguez has never really been that. Eduardo. So like I said, if I was to have one weakness, I would say it's Ks and saves. But my pitching roto has been way better than I thought it would be. So
Yeah.
and again, I had Edwin Diaz too. Like I've just been killed with injuries. It's just been awful.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I think you're gonna make the moves. You're gonna kind of be there at the end. We want to find a way one way or another. Number 2.
Oh, yeah.
Number 2, we have me. Number 2 in the power rankings. I'd rather be number 2 than number 1. Rather be a deuce. For me this year, I think I'm just kind of weathering the storm. You're being blackballed the way that I am. For trades. It's been tough this year. Just kind of having to be a lone wolf a little bit. Haven't been able to make a whole lot of moves, but overall, I feel okay about the team. I feel really good about the pitching staff. The lineup from top to bottom, I just haven't pulled the right strings yet. It seems like I start Gurriel in the wrong weeks. I start Ty France in the wrong weeks. Just finally got Michael Harris back, and he's done absolutely nothing in his 56 at-bats. So waiting for him to kind of get it going. But, overall, I feel top to bottom. Second base hasn't been great. Andres Jimenez had a really disappointing year. But overall, like, there's not a position I feel bad about on my team other than maybe closer, where, the Yankees guys have been disappointing, and Helsley only has 4 saves, even because the Cardinals have been so bad. But obviously, I think I still have the top rotation in the league. I'm actually looking to try. I still have way too much pitching because I just have Bryce Miller on my bench. I've had to bench Charlie Morton, and I just don't think those guys are worthy of being on somebody's bench. So still looking to make some moves here, see what I can do. But I mean, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. Always looking to get upgrades here and there, though. So we'll see. I don't think I'm like the top team in the league. I just think it's just going to be one of those years where, hope I get hot at the right time and going. But I'm not like overly confident in like my team being the best or anything like that. I feel good about it. I don't feel great about it. It just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, I think the offense is really the interesting one, because obviously from that perspective, like the on base percent. Yeah, I mean, the on base percentage has been like scary.
Fast.
I mean, it's
offense in the league.
And it's not. And I think Devers is a little bit lower than you expect, but all of his other counting stats are good. I mean, they really have been for Devers. We knew Christian Walker was going to have a low OBP. Salvador Perez usually has a pretty OBP. Starling Marte, he got off to like 6 steals in the first week, and he has not done shit since. I mean, if you times that by 4, he's on pace for 4 home runs, 32 RBIs, and 44 runs.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about unstartable. Starling Marte has been unstartable this year.
If he steals 40 bags. But yeah, if the 292 on base percentage.
I mean, that's Miles Straw numbers. That's literally Miles Straw numbers. Yeah, it is. Those are Miles Straw numbers. I mean, that's bad. That's really bad. Ty France, we just talked about it. You can't really start that all that much. I mean, I just feel like there's a few guys on here. We talk about guys that shouldn't be in lineups. Taylor Ward, Ty France, Starling Marte.
Taylor Ward's got 24 runs scored.
That's the only thing that he's fantasy startable on. He's on pace for
321 on base percentage.
That's below league average. Are you kidding me? Come on, let's not act like that. 321. No, it is not. Go sort by teams. No, no, no. Go to the fantasy, not MLB league average. Go to fantasy, right?
Nope.
Well, that's what it matters.
That's what
We're
I
counting
said.
fantasy.
Where's the on base? 320 is the league average for on base percentage. He's at
Okay.
321.
Okay, let's go to because we're in a 14 team fantasy league, right? If you go to the roto numbers, go to
Hey,
the actual
he's got an above average on base percentage for Burns when I PV. I'll tell you that right now.
there you go. Well, that's true. But if you go to on base percentage there, that won't be league average anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, exactly. It's like bottom 3 in the league. So my thing is, we talk about other teams having it's tough. Like I said, Mart, you need Harris to step up. You need Harris to be who he is. But Devers, you expect that OBP to jump higher. Jimenez has been off to a slow start. So your pitching staff's been great. It really has. No surprise there. And that's with Alcantara off to a slow start. So
I'm
really,
so fucking frustrated with him. The last 2 starts I've watched of his, where it's like Cincinnati pitched 7 innings, got the quality start, 7 innings, 3 runs, and then goes out for the freaking 8th inning, and he gives up 3 more runs in the 8th. I'm like, why is he out there? Last inning versus the Cubs, through 8 shutout innings versus the Cubs. He's like, let's throw him out for the 9th, even though he's got 110 pitches.
it goes against like all.
I was like, this isn't working. Why do we forcing this?
It goes against like all baseball
Yes.
mentality nowadays. It's very odd. He led the league in complete games last year. So,
Oh.
but really, I mean, weirdly enough, even though your team's obviously like roto wise and all that better than mine right now, I think me and you are in weird parallels where like we just have a few guys that are underperforming that really shouldn't be, that we know probably won't be when it comes to it. You know, I mean, that's kind of how I'm looking at it right now. But overall, yeah, it's a very good balanced team. It's got everything you need, and you do have reinforcements. The fact that you have Charlie Morton on your bench when he would probably be in almost every other rotation. I mean, you just have a lot of depth, so you got to like that. And the fact that Clay Holmes, you've already replaced that with Lang, Helsley. You're in a good spot, no doubt about it. You just need your offense to kind of start picking it up.
And Brandon Woodruff waiting in the wings too, hopefully in about a month or so as well.
Yeah, yep. And to think roto wise, like your offense is your 8th in runs, 8th in home runs, 7 points in RBIs, 7.5 points in. So you're very much like middle. Yeah, I think we're just expecting with the names for you to be higher, and you're already 2nd in the roto standing. So I mean, you're in a good spot, no doubt.
Room for improvement.
Yep.
All right. The only team we haven't talked about yet, our number 1 team in the power rankings. Not really a surprise, but Chad. Disclaimer. I have Chad. Actually, number 2. You have him number 3. It just kind of balanced out there because of how it is and kind of how it's gone. That Chad isn't really our number 1 team in either one of our rankings. We think that there's better teams out there, but we think that there's so many flaws and so many teams, and the parity this year has been unlike any other, that it just kind of happened that Chad falls as being the top ranked team. This team, we kind of know what this team is. The reason why he's so high for me is just we know the upside. I mean, he's number 1 in roto right now, so it's proven that what he has going is working. He just made a trade for Zach Gallen. But with this team, I mean, he's got DeGrom. He's got Glass now on the IL. We knew that those guys weren't going to throw 200 innings this year. We could, that's been proven. Obviously, Glasnow came into the year hurt, and Glasnow couldn't even get through the first inning of his rehab start. Glasnow couldn't throw 12 pitches. He threw 11 pitches at AAA, and then they get pulled out for side soreness. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a rule in the AAA where if you are not ready to get activated after 21 days, you have to go back on the 15-day IL. So he was seen like throwing a temper tantrum in the dugout after he got pulled, because he knows that if he doesn't get activated after his 21st day of being on his rehab assignment, he has to get re-shut down and go on the 15-day IL and then restart kind of the process. So he might not be getting Glasnow back as soon as he thought. So he's got Glasnow, he's got DeGrom, Lux, Jazz Chisholm already hurt again. He kind of left the game. He's got Lowe was out of lineup today, and another team that just kind of has a few gaps here. I mean, the offense looks pretty solid top to bottom. There's not a lot of guys you want to complain about in this offense. He's got guys that are overperforming, or maybe guys that just are as good as they are. Maybe Josh Young is this good. Maybe Wander Franco is this good. Probably is this good. Maybe Josh Lowe is this good. Maybe it isn't an overperformance. The pitching staff leaves a little bit to be desired. He needs DeGrom to come back. He needs Glasnow to come back, so he doesn't have to start Patrick Corbin and Kyle Finnegan and Tyler Wells and some of these guys. So, I mean, the upside is all there. When he's fully healthy, this might be the best team in the league. I think if it's full force, full-fledged, fully healthy, this is the best team in the league. But I don't know how often it'll be fully healthy. I don't know if it'll ever be fully healthy. So that's kind of why I don't have him as the number one team. I think that Jay's team is more complete on paper than this team right now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's tough. I would say, again, I would take Gallon and Javier over Cobb and Darvish, or Cobb, Darvish, and Kershaw, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I would take,
but he
I would
also
take
doesn't have a
Gallon.
Patrick. He doesn't have a Patrick Corbin in his rotation
Sure,
either.
I would take Gallon, Javier, and DeGrom over Kershaw, Cobb, and Darvish.
Okay, I wouldn't. And then when you compound
What?
Jay's two relievers
I'm out.
versus Kimbrel, Finnegan, and Devin
Oh
Williams.
man. So you're sitting here and tell me right now you would take Darvish, Cobb, and Kershaw over Javier, Gallon, and DeGrom.
If it means no, I wouldn't. But because he has Patrick Corbin, Craig Kimbrel, Kyle Finnegan, all in his rotation, that balances it out, drags everything down. Where Jay's other rest of his rotation isn't that atrocious.
I guess.
And Graham Ashcraft has come back down to earth ever since he had his 3 good starts that Chad was bragging about. And Jack Flaherty has been atrocious. And Miles Mikolas has been atrocious. Drew Smiley has overperformed. Maybe he belongs in his lineup. Maybe looks a lot better. And Alzolay is a middle reliever.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't have Chad as my number one team either. I think he's 3. He's really killing it in Roto right now, where he's like 20 points ahead of anyone else. But I mean, this is a lot of it. These are just young guys that have finally gotten it together too, which I think makes it more scary. I mean, we're talking about some guys like, I don't know, Alex Cobb, that's 35 years old, having a career renaissance year. Chad's team might actually have a chance to prove it. I mean, we're talking guys, like you said, Nolan Gorman's 23. Corbin Carroll's 22. Josh Lowe's 25. Josh Jung is 25. Wander Franco's 22. I'm a big prospect guy. Josh Jung, Wander Franco, Corbin Carroll, Nolan Gorman. These were all at some point top, not 50. These were all at some point top 10 prospects in baseball. So they are just finally doing it. I mean, I think that's what it, and they're young, and I'm scared of Chad's team because I think it could be the best lineup in the whole thing. I mean, I really do. I think I could be the best in the whole entire thing. He's got such a lead on steals. I mean, when I looked at the teams that were even behind him in steals, the Bryces, the Daves, the teams that are, by the way, not competing, the next closest team that's actually like competing has like half the amount of steals as him. I mean, it's nuts what the stats are right now. So if Cody Bellinger keeps doing this pace, if Corbin Carroll, Ian Happ, I mean, these are young guys that I could see keeping this up because they're in their primes. Chad's team is freaking scary. I mean, it is. And I agree with you. The pitching right now, having to throw Finnegan and Kimbrel in there, that kind of sucks. But I mean, this is what we said at the beginning of the year. If DeGrom and Glasnow aren't healthy, you're going to be in trouble. Well, they're not healthy, and he's not in trouble yet. I mean, he's doing good. So I don't know. Chad's team, I think, is pretty well rounded. I like it. I think if he needs to at some point, he could pull off the speed and a little bit of offense and maybe make himself a little bit short up on the pitching. That's about all I would recommend. I think you could pull off a guy like a Bregman who's kind of struggling right now. Throw in Jung at third base and go and get a pitcher. I think that would be a perfect move for Chad.
Yeah. I think that would make sense too. I did slide into Chad's DMs earlier today, asked if he needed a pitcher. He said no. So
no, yeah,
he's
it's
happy with Tyler Wells.
But no, I think
so I was gonna say tried and true. He's got a 1.7 ERA for the week, so no, he doesn't need a pitcher.
Right, and this is what Jazz Chisholm on his bench. I mean, another 14 steal guy. I mean, Wander Franco's on.
He shifted him in like today when he saw that he got.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was in his lineup this week.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a Wander Franco that's on pace for 100 RBIs, almost 30 home runs, 40 steals. I mean, and again, I said pre-draft, he's still only 22 years old. Just wait, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Boom. I mean, he's doing it.
It happened in time just for him to be a free agent next year.
And remember this, yeah, exactly. Remember that was a guy that was drafted in our very first year in the keeper, and here he is, bam, making it make a difference. Yep, I think in the reserve, yeah.
You know who was taken?
No, actually, no, was he not second? No, he was second. Because remember, Jay took.
I know who he took. Do you know
Jay took Gore.
Yep, he took Gore, and then I was so excited.
Jay took Gore.
That I had the third pick, and I'm like, oh my god, Jared Kalenic fell to me. Oh my god, Jay's an idiot. Yeah, I was the fucking idiot.
Yep. But again, another guy that was taken in that first year was a Bobby Witt, who's also because he was
Yep.
he was $13. So I mean, it's kind of interesting to see how some of those guys have panned out. Because right now, would you say Wander Franco's worth it for $13? Hell yeah,
As of how he's performed right now, but
yeah,
I would have kept him the first year. I would have had him on a B contract now for whatever that
right,
was.
yeah, I see what you mean. Yep.
Yeah, so that would have been my opinion. Holy cow, we did it. Now we're in 2 hours and 36 minutes later.
That's about standard.
Our power rankings: Chad first, Kyle, Eric, Justin, Peter and Jay 5th and 6th, Krim, Phil, Tyler, Chris and Dex 10th and 11th. 12th is Jordan and Dave 12th and 13th, and then Bryce coming in at 14th. Wow. Well, we kind of had to speed through teams there, so I feel a little bad about that, but it's just kind of how it goes sometimes, unless you guys want the 4-hour Megalodon pod.
Right. And like I said, me and Kyle, we obviously have the doc here. We were very different on some of these teams. Like, I mean, we're talking like I kind of talked to Kyle pre-show where I said he's almost abandoned some of his like preseason predictions a little bit based on who he's liked. And some of them are kind of changed a little bit. But I would say obviously the biggest difference we have between each other is the Jay and Peter difference. I mean, that's pretty staggering.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that was kind of wild. I'm looking through some of our bold takes. We're gonna hit on a few of these. Looking at some of mine, I have under 10 saves for Daniel Bard. I have
that was before the anxiety diagnosis.
Yeah, that was before the anxiety. I have Nico Horner finishing ahead of Jazz Chisholm. That was one of my bold takes. That one's looking okay.
Is it?
Highest stolen base total in 6 years, and 3 will break the 4. Let's see what I have. 3 will break 43 stolen bases. That's looking pretty solid. I said Corbin Carroll will steal 50. That one, yeah, we'll see. Tyler O'Neill doesn't make the Cardinals postseason roster. That one's looking
Cardinals won't make the postseason roster.
Yeah, that's true. Nobody will make the Cardinals postseason roster. Oh, I said Peter doesn't have a top 3 rotation. I should have said 5. I said Dylan Cease will have over 4 ERA. That's coming true.
Yep.
It's Oscar Cole. I had Oscar Colas lands on the IL. Well, he can't be on the injured list if he's in AAA. And so we'll check in on those bold takes here in a little bit. You had Aaron Judge under 40 home runs. He's on pace to not hit 40, I believe.
Right. Well, and your bold was under 62, but I think that was a sarcastic one.
Yeah, that was I didn't even put that one in here. You did. You had Jake McCarthy is the best.
I know. Hey, we said bold. We said bold. I'm trying to go bold here, man.
Justin, what did we miss? What's your point total looking like, and what did we miss? Tony Reale.
It's pretty even, man. I think you guys both made some pretty solid points. I think it was super interesting though that you had Jay and Peter's teams so like different, 1 and 8 for both of you guys.
Who do you have as the better team right now and rest of season? Is it the same team or 2 different teams in regards to who you would put higher in your power rankings?
I would put Jay higher just because Peter has no bench. Like he
never does
in the draft. Totally fucking botched that again, where he just like did not go after like $1 to $5 players that he could have just had as reinforcements when some of these guys went down. And I like the moves that Jay's made, so I think Jay would definitely be higher for me than Peter.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Eric.
It's all good, dude. It is all okay.
I guess we're gonna have to do a live pod from the Thinger residence in mid-June.
Totally fine by me.
Maybe we'll go live from the golf course from Florida. Well,
I'm fine with that too.
Is there any team that we're sleeping on or you think we're too high on?
I need to be higher. No, man, I really need stolen bases and I need saves. Bard not being a closer, making $18 million a year is just absolutely fucking baffling to me. But
well, it's crazy. I remember at some point when I looked at like the total stats, didn't you draft like theoretically like 3 closers or something like that, or two at least 2 Iglesias and was it Bard?
Yep.
And then also
only $9.
And we were like 3 weeks in, and you didn't even have like a save, and I'm just like, wow, that sucks. Like that's not. I mean, we knew Iglesias was going to be hurt to start, but like, wow. I mean, you set yourself up what seemed like really good, and your team's obviously still doing good. But if you would have had those saves too, man, that would have been dynamite.
Absolutely.
Curious to see what Dave does. I wonder if it's anything, but with this Scherzer. Chad could go get a Giolito. Chad could go get a Scherzer. Chad could go get some of these guys. Chad could go get Garrett Cole. If
Didn't
Chris
Chad auction for Giolito and he paid 38 for him?
Yeah, and then he actually just traded him away. I forgot about that. He
And
just
he
traded him away to 2 decks.
And remember, he did not keep a $34 Logan Webb.
Yeah, true. That was a little bit of a head scratcher. I think Chad's got the scariest team. Could be.
It's scary if he adds one more really damn good pitcher. I think Chad's team is no doubt.
One more damn good pitcher he can add is DeGrom, but
yeah,
I could fix that, Chad, for you real quick, Chad. All right. Anything else before we skedaddle out of here? Exhausted. I brought too much heat. Maybe not. You guys probably think I didn't bring enough heat.
Hey, no, I thought that was a fun one. It was a good conversations. I liked it. That was good.
Absolutely.
It's like I said, it's still early to me. That's kind of my main point. I think we just see too much of it kind of counter. It just all fills out at the end of the year. We'll see what happens. I'd probably not jumping the gun on some things, jumping the gun too much on others, but I guess that's the fun of it. We'll have to see how it all pans out.
Yeah. All right. For Kyle, thank you. Justin, thank you. Eric, it's been real. It's been good. It's been real good. Peace out, Girl Scouts.
See you guys.
See ya.